The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
Come on, let's wake up.
Gotta wake up.
Are you sure you want to wake up to this?
Come on now, wake up.
I can't wait to wake up.
Wake up, idiot.
You better wake up on a Tuesday, KB, because there's going to be a lot going on. Roster cuts for the Indianapolis Colts. What's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor? We shall see, and we'll be talking about it for the next 3 hours. Hanging out with you on this Tuesday on The Fan in the DriveHubler.com studios. I'm Andy Sweeney. He's Kevin Bowen. Marc Dykton producing today's effort. We have beer in studio that you are going to present to Marc. I think Marc got a haircut, too. He's looking good today. He's ready for Jonathan Taylor Day.
Haircut and a six-pack. What more do you need?
They're a little Oktoberfest. I like that.
I figured it is football season.
You're damn right it is.
You know, the weather has had a little bit of a crisper feel to it. Marc, also brewed in Munich. I know the Colts aren't necessarily playing in Munich, but Frankfurt, Munich.
That's close enough.
Hey, there you go.
It's the closest
Yeah.
I'm going to get. So, congrats to your Brownsburg.
There we go.
Bulldogs.
How about Brownsburg today?
Betting on high school football,
Yes.
I don't know if it's the greatest moral compass, but here you go, Marc. Congrats on that.
Thank you,
Not
sir.
only that, you're betting not with money, but with alcohol. That's the thing. Is that worse? If you're worried about it, that would be worse. I don't know if it
I'm
is or
winning
not.
the Trester Mental Attitude Award from the IHSCA.
I'd like to
anytime
thank
soon
the
on
high
that.
school athletes for the six-pack I've been bestowed.
Yeah, thank you for all those 16 and 17-year-olds doing what they did on Friday
Marc will
night.
buy you Busch Light at prom for you.
All right, fellas. Well, here we are on this Tuesday, and we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, it could be a huge day in the history, if you will, of Indianapolis sports. We shall see what happens with Jonathan Taylor. Cuts they may be happening during the show. We will have Joel A. Erickson join us from the Indianapolis Star coming up at 8:00. But good morning, KB. What do you foresee? Probably not during this show. We'll get much clarity, but at some point today, we will at least take the next step in the Jonathan Taylor saga.
Yeah, I thought that was well said right there off the bat, Andy, about, this could be one of the, one of the bigger days in franchise history. I mean, certainly you'll have to see how everything plays out, but, if Jonathan Taylor were to get moved, what you would get in return for him, obviously the future ramifications of that, potentially on Anthony Richardson, all of those things are at play, and just in general, this is the biggest transaction day the NFL calendar sees. You'll have, over 1,100 guys get cut from various teams around the league, and sure, nearly half of them will be back on a practice squad, but still, practice squad security isn't 53-man roster sort of security. Game day checks look different. Practice squad guys still make a great amount of money, but game day checks look a whole lot different than that. So a ton for us to unpack today, because I think we continue to have a few different morsels appear on Jonathan Taylor. One very notable national member of the media thinks he will be moved. To your point about when will we see something, Chris Ballard typically waits until the final minute of these deadlines.
Yeah, 3:58. Yeah,
4:00 is roster cuts. I want to say the Nyheim Hines trade trade deadline last October, that was like even a little bit after 4:00 by the time it got officially announced. I'm not holding my breath on anything soon, but certainly we can hit on that. And then again, just cuts and what we see from a tight end standpoint, what we see at corner. No undrafted free agent. Is that going to be the case? What are they going to do with the offensive line situation? Because the depth there is beyond inexperienced. And again, from waiver claims tomorrow, which Chris Ballard typically does about 2 a year, you can point to other seasons where he's done a lot more, and typically that's involved staff changes. Well, there's quite a bit of staff change this season, so I think we could see a few more considering where the Colts are in the waiver list. And then, Andy, I tweeted out yesterday, and this is not Taylor related, but we have seen the Colts have, I think it's 8 trades in this final day here of August. We already saw, I think Marc's Bears did one late last night.
Yes, they did. Offensive lineman.
Dan Feeney, an Indiana University product, moving back to, I think, his Chicago area roots from the Dolphins. Yeah, so typically those are some trades that you see of, okay, we're going to cut this guy, you're going to cut that guy, why don't we just swap them? So all of that we can keep an eye on, but it is a beautiful looking Tuesday here in Indianapolis. So good morning to everybody out there, and thank you for tuning in to the Wake Up Call.
Yeah, it
KB
feels
and
like
Andy.
football. That's what we're talking about. It feels like football. You're bringing Oktoberfest into the studio. That's what I'm talking about. You're right. You're feeling good. It's not the heat of last week. Everyone's feeling good. We have football in the air. And the thing that...
Not at all, by the way. 58 degrees this morning. Good Lord.
Any offense that Mark hasn't offered us one? I think that would just
You
be
can
common
go ahead and
courtesy,
take
right?
one, Kev, if you want to.
Are they cold?
No, they're not. That's the
Okay.
thing. You
Well,
want a
throw a
warm
couple.
beer?
Throw a couple in the freezer. It'll be
Cold
fine.
enough in 58 degree weather.
We'll just set them outside. You know what's interesting to me, whether it be, and I assume you were alluding, KB, to Ian Rapport, who believes that he's going to be moved and the Dolphins are involved and there are other teams involved. We played the sound yesterday, Marc did, in Chicago with Adam Schefter, who's like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Right? And like, to me, it's been interesting joining this show and this story, okay? Because this is a story that we don't know. We don't know the injury. We don't know what has happened behind the scenes. We don't know why the Colts are so damn dug in. We don't know what's going to happen. And NFL insiders don't know, KB. I mean, Adam Schefter's not strong like, oh, he's going to be traded. I mean, it's going to happen today. Get ready for Tuesday. Jonathan Taylor's going to be on another team. We don't know those other teams. We don't know what kind of compensation we're talking about. We don't know if Jonathan Taylor, whether he stays here in Indianapolis or not. We don't know what he's going to, is he going to miss the first 4 games? Is he going to miss the first 4 games? Is he going to be on the PUP list? Or is he, like JMV says, is he going to be practicing tomorrow if he were to receive some sort of a deal? Or is he going to play? Like we just don't know anything about this story, and we don't know what's going to happen today. And I guess part of it's fun, but I tell you, there haven't been too many stories where NFL insiders are very lukewarm, and that's how I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point to bring up how Rapport and Schefter, it's a little bit different. I think it's fair to say Ian is, 60-70%. He thinks something will happen. We can play that audio a little bit later. Schefter is much more, I'd say, 50-50, if even that. But, and this might be me being selfish, I think a good amount of our listeners will be happy about some of it. We're going to get to 4 o'clock today, Andy, and we'll finally get an answer on Taylor.
Some answer
is going to occur at 4 o'clock, and that is through an action by the Indianapolis Colts, which, again, they haven't had to do a lot of action with this situation that's played out so publicly over the last month. So we're going to get that today at 4 o'clock, and we'll explain that. And then tomorrow, at some point, Chris Ballard is scheduled to meet the media. I think it's going to be late tomorrow afternoon. Typically, he likes to get through the waiver claims. And again, 4 o'clock today, you got to cut to 53, 90 to 53. No more 5 cut here, 5 cut there. The NFL just has one big cut. I know the Colts have already made sub moves, but technically you only have to do one big one. And then in the next kind of 20-hour period, the waiver claims process tomorrow at noon. Then you kind of reassess your 53-man roster. You put together a practice squad. The Colts will get back to practice tomorrow at 3. And again, Chris Ballard's scheduled to meet the media at some point. So I think those are at least decent items for maybe our sanity of by 4 o'clock today, Jonathan Taylor has to come off the PUP list, which would mean he is eligible to practice and play as soon as tomorrow. Eligible is the key word. We'll see if he actually does practice and or play, of course, a week from Sunday, but he would be eligible if you bring him off that PUP list onto your 53-man roster. If you leave him on the PUP list, he has to miss, and this is not just games, it's practice. He misses practice and games between now and through week 4 of the regular season. So that answer, thankfully, we're going to get here in less than 9 hours.
Is it wrong for me just to ask you guys, what do we think happens? Like, what's the leader in the clubhouse? Is it that he stays in Indianapolis and he's on the PUP list?
I think he will be off the PUP list. Now, let me caution and say my conviction with this, Andy, unfortunately.
No, it's very low. I understand.
Me losing my chapstick this morning and scrambling around in my car in the parking garage, be like, that damn chapstick, I've lost that so many times. I'm looking for it like it's my wedding ring. Luckily, I was able to find it.
You ever lost a wedding ring?
Not I've certainly lost it for like an hour or so, but nothing to the extent of like.
I was a couple days. I kind of gave up on it. I kind of gave up on it for some reason.
This is my second one.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, a bunch of my
second one because of what reason?
We lived in our apartment at the time, and I was taking out the trash when I was still working overnight.
Oh.
And it was one of those things where I threw the bag in, and the elastic wrapped around my finger, and the ring just clean off into the dumpster. I was climbing in the dumpster, couldn't find it.
That's
I'm
a
like,
scene
I
from
don't
a
know
movie,
what to do.
Mark.
It really is. Okay, so you didn't really lose it. Well, I mean, you did lose it, but you knew in the vicinity where it was.
Right.
Which is much different than
Never
the
found
different
it.
times that I've
Never
been
found
looking
it.
for it.
Simple misplacement on that.
Yeah, I've been mad at myself. It was during the move. I thought I just lost it, kind of like you did, where it fell off. Anyway, we can talk about other things. I mean, that's the beauty is you don't know what's going to happen today. So you think off the pup list?
I think he's off the pup list. Whether he's a Colt or not, I'm still a little torn on. Part of me says he will not be a Colt because I ask myself this question, Andy. What changes? Just because you keep him, does that all of a sudden mean Jonathan Taylor's happy? No. Basically, to me, keeping him would say we're delaying the inevitable situation that we've had for the last month. The trade deadline's not till Halloween. He's under contract for another year. So you would still have a very disgruntled running back. And to me, that situation, the hanging cloud of it all, if you as a franchise are not giving him an extension, which there has been no hint of this. If Jim Irsay wants to say something publicly, he'll say something publicly. And whether it was Irsay after the bus situation back in late July, or it was him inside of that press box at Lucas Oil Stadium a couple weeks, there is nothing in there about Jonathan Taylor being a member of the Indianapolis Colts past the 2023 season. So if that's your stance, to me, go ahead and get rid of him by 4 o'clock.
Oh, I know we're up against a break here. By the way, Tom Dienhart going to join us in about 20 minutes, bottom of the hour, 7:30. Joel
Embiid, that'd be a great get for him.
Joel Embiid, Erickson.
That would, Embiid, we're going to have to bump you. Jonathan Taylor news just came down at 8:05. I don't even know what I was going to say. I guess here would be the only thing that does change, KB, and it would be it would be the Colts kind of exerting some of their leverage and power over Jonathan Taylor. I'm sure some fans would feel like, okay, now maybe, if he's on the pup list, now, maybe there's still an in-season trade we could do. Maybe the two sides can actually get together at some point, which I don't think is going to happen. If nothing else, maybe he plays for your franchise and you're a better team and you get a couple more wins because Jonathan Taylor is playing. So I guess that's what would change. But you talk about the feelings between the two parties. I don't think that's changing at all.
It would have to take one of the bigger 180s that you've seen. So I cannot stress that enough. But again, we will get at least an answer today through an action. Tomorrow, it'll be Chris Bauer's words. So I think praise you-know-who. I mean, thank the Lord. We are finally going to get some steps in a clarity type of direction here today. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Tuesday here in Indianapolis. A whole lot to get to from a roster cut standpoint, as Andy said. Tom Dienhart talked Purdue football. It is I think a pretty notable schedule here out of the gate for Purdue. At least not Cupcake Central might be the better way to put it for Ryan Walters' first season. So we'll got the Notre Dame angle last week. We'll do Purdue today, Indiana a little bit later in the week. And again, Joel A. Erickson coming up at 8 o'clock as we will dive deep into roster cuts with Joel. Thank you for tuning in to the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy here on 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Lights, pep band, rabid fans. It's football night in Indiana. The best of Kentucky travels north to take on the best in Indiana. 6A state champion Cedar Grove meets Trinity from Louisville. Sponsored by CarX. Don't worry, call the CarX team.
We know what we're doing. Let's just do it, okay?
Eddie Garrison has the kickoff starting at 7 on your home for Friday Night Football. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Need to hire? Find great people fast with Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Luxair is the intelligent way to keep your home comfortable. Luxair units are designed, engineered, and assembled to last. To become a dealer, 317-926-6061.
All right, with these roster cuts, obviously some injury situations will play into that. Well, let's talk about our own injury issues. And honestly, if you're still talking about it,
on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I do love it goes to the Checkdown from the Disturbed commercial. Do you like that? Wow. You like that? I know you do, KB. I know what's going on with you right
Kevin
now.
also thought that Papa Roach and Limp Bizkit were the same
We're
band.
rolling.
How dare you do that to Fred Durst? How dare you kill my middle school years?
Did it all for the
Let's get it going. On this Checkdown, it's all bad. The Reds are done. The Reds done.
Oh, wow.
The Reds done.
Can we not lead off with the Cubs? Did the Cubs
You're right.
lose?
You know what? The Cubs lost.
Jeez.
That's actually the highlight of the day. The Cubs lost
I did
6-2.
call that, though.
You did. You said, but we also had the over/under at 9, and the over/under was 8. Thank you to only 2 runs by the Cubs. So the Cubs losers last night. The Reds losers last night 4-1. That was a late one in San Francisco. If you wanted any of that, the Reds still maintain that they trail by 1.5 games. So that doesn't change at all. But San Francisco now moves ahead of them. Not good, KB.
What do you guys think of the Ronald Acuna Jr. video? Some fans running out on the field at Coors Field, and
Yeah, that was weird.
I would
was
say
weird.
one of the more I don't know if intimate's the right word, but I was very nervous watching the first 10 seconds of that video.
Well, no, a guy hugs him and hangs on, and then another guy comes on the field
And then Acuna
is kind
Jr.
of hugging
falls
him.
to the ground at one
Yeah.
point. He was fine injury-wise or anything like that. But
It was odd.
yeah, it was a very weird video, and obviously one of the stars of Major League Baseball. Yesterday, we updated you throughout the first half. Team USA routs Greece there in the second half. They win by 28. Tyrese Halliburton off the bench, per usual. Him and that bench group sparked some things for Team USA because it was kind of a sluggish first quarter. 9 points, 3 assists, 3 blocks in 21 minutes for Halliburton. We've seen in the past, guys like Carmelo Anthony, guys like Dwayne Wade, they have fully embraced bench roles with Team USA, and honestly, I think it's been a big part of how they're kind of viewed in the basketball limelight. Here was Halliburton yesterday on coming off the bench.
When you wear this uniform, when you play for Team USA, it's so much bigger than you. So you got to understand that and understand the legends that have came off the bench before us. We're no better than them. So, you got to understand it and understand that that's part of building a culture here with Team USA. And they've been able to do that over the last, however many years. So we're just trying to continue that.
Andy, I know a big part of this for Halliburton, at least I would think, is you look ahead to next year in the Olympics in 2024, and you think about the Team USA backcourt. I mean, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard aren't getting any younger. Trae Young, probably more of a scorer first. Donovan Mitchell, not really a point guard. Ja Morant's situation, obviously. De'Aaron Fox, obviously Jalen Brunson is with Halliburton on this team. I mean, there is an opportunity here. That,
100%.
If you're going to rank the 12 best American players, maybe Halliburton's not that. But if you're building a basketball team, what he's doing right now, I think would be very he'd be up in the discussion in that room heading
You don't know who's going to be on the team. You know who's going to be on the team.
Yeah.
Who's going to commit to being on the team.
Right.
No, it's all good. It's all good for Halliburton. Yeah, all of it's good.
Tomorrow. That's not Michael. That's not
Michael.
Spieth. It's the country. 4:40. If you want to set your alarms. I guess when I say tomorrow, don't I mean?
It's actually
I guess it is tomorrow.
I guess technically
Early
it is
Wednesday morning.
We will not be up for that. Well, I guess we'll kind of be up maybe for the back end of that one. Indians in Buffalo tonight. That's a 7:05, and I know at some point you wanted to talk about it. Isaiah Rodgers picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday.
Yeah, so basically what the Eagles are saying is he's worth a spot on our 90-man roster. They did that, then they moved him to the suspension list, so he will be out for, again, at least the entire season. He still has to be reinstated by the NFL, but Nick Sirianni, obviously a relationship with Isaiah Rodgers, certainly saw him play and going to give him a chance. And I think this is kind of what we're going to see in the NFL. If you get suspended for gambling in one place, you just get cut and then you go somewhere else. Which I don't know. That's it's not our
or
problem.
you end up on the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's your punishment. Now, he did get suspended for a year. I mean, they gave their 2 cornerbacks, Bradbury and Slay. I believe they gave them both 3-year deals. I know they gave Slay a 3-year deal. I believe Bradbury's is a little bit more front-loaded in a signing bonus, and he's going to be making a lot more money in 2023. When you're a good team, you do things like this, and people say, not a bad move.
Yeah. Wise.
Not a bad move. Wise. What a wise team.
Roster cut meetings went late last night for the Indianapolis Colts as they're trying to get things down to 53. Obviously, the Jonathan Taylor story is certainly one that is still very, very fresh. We're going to hit on all of it today. Again, Tom Dienhart on the other side covers Purdue football for On3.com. We'll preview a little bit of the Boilers as Ryan Walters gets his first season underway. I really like the potential. I know it's a defensive-minded head coach. I really like the potential, though, offensively with Graham Harrell and Hudson Card transferring in from Texas. So we'll chat about that on the other side. It's a wake-up call with KB and Andy here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The IndyCar Series races at Portland Sunday at 3.
Eats, drinks, scenic views.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We're doing this segment for Todd Meyer, a little Purdue football. That's what we're going to do here on the wake-up call. KB and Andy hanging out with you up until 10 o'clock on this Tuesday. Cut day for the Indianapolis Colts. What's going to happen with JT? You know we'll have you covered here all day on the Fan. But let's go to the Payless Liquors hotline. Tom Dienhart joins us following Purdue, goldenblack.com, part of the On3 network. Tom, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here early in the morning. I guess let's start here, big picture, and then we can drill down into the depth chart and the quarterback and everything else. With the coaching change and obviously such a good season last year and now a lot of new faces, new quarterbacks and everything else with the program, what do you think would be a successful season for Purdue this season?
You know, I really think just getting to a bowl game in 2023, in my eyes, would be considered a success, just given all the turnover that's happened here in West Lafayette. You know, you reference the coaching staff, right? You have new schemes on both sides of the ball, and then obviously a new philosophy coming from your head coach, too. And then, of course, you've got the roster, the personnel. Wholesale changes across the board. Hit the transfer portal very hard, had upwards of almost 20 players that they've imported. And then you add the freshmen on top of that. I think about a third of the roster is new. So you're given all that. And then, of course, the third factor is the schedule, guys. Look at the schedule when you get a chance. Very, very difficult. Ohio State and Michigan among the big ask of this team in 2023. So, again, guys, 6-6, get to a bowl. To me, that's good. 7-5. That may be the ceiling, I think.
Yes, Tom points out the crossover games, Ohio State, Michigan speak for themselves, and then September, you really don't have Cupcake Central.
The non-con is good. Yeah, the non-con's good.
Beginning Saturday at noon, that's Fresno State, 4.5-point favorite Purdue in that Ryan Walters opener. Again, Tom Dienhart on 3.com with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Tom, the transfer of Hudson Card, it feels like him and Graham Harrell, that sort of marriage, I don't know. I'm pretty high on that duo. I understand Purdue's lost a lot from a skill position standpoint, I should say pass catching standpoint more than anything, but that's a duo that I feel like we could be talking about a little bit more prominently as the season moves along. What are the expectations specifically with this passing offense?
I think they're sky high. You know, the moment Hudson Card got here in January after he transferred from Texas, ever since then the praise has really been effusive for Card on and off the field. You know, skill set. Looks like he's a glove in hand fit for this air raid based offense. He can run it. He can throw it. And again, I think it's the run up part that's really going to be unique. That's going to surprise fans. He's a good athlete with some speed, so he's going to be able to extend plays, keep his eyes downfield, hopefully find open receivers. If not, he's going to be able to tuck it and run it, which we didn't see in recent years from the Purdue quarterback. So again, he can end up being a real steal, guys. Hasn't gotten a lot of publicity nationally, but anybody who's matriculated to West Lafayette and watched him in the spring or during camp has come away very impressed. So he's the straw that stirs the drink here in West Lafayette. Purdue will go as Hudson Card goes. And again, with the way he's turned heads so far, maybe that's pretty far.
Now, I feel like it's just kind of roll call we have to do here, especially with Purdue and Indiana and how many transfers they both have had into their program. We know about Hudson Card. Where else should we be looking for impactful newcomers via the portal for Purdue this season? Because when we had Ryan Walters on in the spring, he's like, oh, yeah, when the summer hits, we still need to go out and try to find a half dozen guys.
I think I was looking at the game notes yesterday. They have 17 transfers on their preseason two deep, to give you a little idea of the influx of new players. And I think the two positions that were hit the hardest were offensive line. They brought in 6 transfers there. And then the secondary, the entire cornerback spot is made up of either transfers or true freshmen, so all newcomers at the cornerback spot. I think overall, guys, there's 5 portal cornerbacks and 1 JC transfer. So those 2 spots really have undergone the most change, and they're going to undergo the most scrutiny when they take the lid off the season here at high noon on Saturday against Fresno State. And guys, you talked about the schedule a little bit. I mean, it's not easy like we talked about. In September in particular, to me, I mean, I know it's only the first month of the season, but it's probably the make or break month if Purdue wants to make the postseason. You have 5 games, 4 of them are at home. I think Purdue's got to be 3-2 when that calendar turns to October if it really wants to have a good chance to reach the postseason.
Yeah, you look at that September schedule, and Tom Dienhart with us here on The Fan. Fresno State at home, at Virginia Tech, home Syracuse, home Wisconsin. They have a new coaching staff, and obviously Illinois and Bielema coming in.
Friday night game against the Badgers.
I mean, that's going to be an FS1 game. I mean, they have some chances here, but wow, that is a heavy September schedule. You mentioned Graham Harrell. I know KB's a big fan of quarterback and offensive coordinator. I have followed Jeff Brom, obviously, many years, in the ACC and other things. When you look at Brom and you look at Harrell, what's the difference between the two as a new system is in West Lafayette?
I think they're both obviously quarterback-centric play callers, right? Harrell comes from that air raid-based family led by Mike Leach. Of course, he's a quarterback for Mike Leach in Lubbock and coach for Mike Leach at Washington State. And again, I think the difference is I think maybe the overall complexity. I think Brom's offense was very complex. Always heard about a big, thick playbook, just a lot to learn. Now, this Graham Harrell air raid-based offense that they're going to run here at Purdue, not overly complex from what you're told or what I'm told. They try to keep things simple. And what they try to do is just dress things up with formations and shifts and whatnot to try to confuse teams. They basically try to do the same thing over and over again at a maybe different looks and different sets and different alignments. They want their guys to be able to play fast, and they want to be good at what they do. And the defense is very similar. Again, not a lot of complexity there. But they try to dress things up with different looks. So, again, I think that's the biggest difference here. They're both going to be quarterback-centric offenses. But I think the complexity of Brahms was just a little bit more sophisticated.
Looking at the game notes and looking at the depth chart, and Tom Dienhart with us, we're talking some Purdue football here on this Tuesday. There's not a lot of ors. In college you get sometimes a depth chart where it's all or. So they say, well, here's the starter, or it's this guy, or it's that guy. I feel like with Purdue, it's the offensive line where you get the ors. Am I wrong there? I'm looking at left tackle, center, and guard. Is that the biggest question mark right now?
Yeah, I think left tackle. Mohamed Musa, an Indianapolis kid, I think he's a 50-50 proposition to play. I don't think he is going to play. I think they're going to have to play a backup left tackle to start the season. And I think they're going to have to probably play their third-string center, a kid named Austin Johnson from Colorado. Of course, Gus Hartwood's a local kid from Zionsville. He's out until probably midseason. His backup, I think, is going to miss the game. Josh Kaltenberger, though they list him as the starter on the depth chart, but I think he's going to be out another week. So, again, they could be down to number 3 center. So, yeah, that offensive line is going to get tested right out of the gate against the Fresno State team, guys. If you're a college football fan, have any appreciation for the sport, you know how good Fresno State has been over the years, continues to be.
Yeah. They won their final 9 games last year.
Yeah, and just great history. It's a very kind of a blue-collar, chip-on-the-shoulder program. A lot of pride in that program, and they're always well coached. Jeff Tedford, guys, was Aaron Rodgers' coach. He coached Kyle Bowler. I think he's coached 6 NFL quarterbacks. So, again, a very sophisticated coach. And get this, he's 61 years old. He's going to go against 37-year-old Ryan Walters, so a huge age difference.
Tom, last one from me, and you brought up the offensive line injury, so maybe you just answered it, but the biggest position question mark is where?
Yeah, again, it's not the offensive line. It's the secondary and the cornerback spot in particular. I think, like I said, I like the starters to get the 2 transfers, one's from Penn State, one's from Ole Miss. I think those guys are solid. But the backups, one backup's a true freshman on the depth chart. The other backup is that junior college transfer I talked about. So if they get any injury to cornerback, it could get very interesting. So, yeah, keep your eye if you're a Purdue fan on the cornerback spot and the offensive line on Saturday.
And Tom Dienhart, the writer and the editor covering Purdue football for On3.com. Again, things underway, noon kick. That's 9 a.m. for the Fresno State faithful. So maybe a little advantage there for the Boilers coming up in their opener on Saturday. Tom, great stuff. Thanks for hopping on early with us today.
You guys, thank you for having me, guys. Take care.
That's Tom Dienhart right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Again, Andy, 4.5-point favorite. Fresno won 9 in a row to end last season. Jake Haener, their quarterback, was a guy I think a lot of people liked entering the draft, 4th-round pick from the Saints. They won their bowl game over Washington State, and it's not like, oh my gosh, Purdue's playing top 10 team in September, but Fresno State, Virginia Tech, and Syracuse, those aren't the MAC schools. That's not, Indiana State coming to West Lafayette, and, nothing against Indiana State.
Oh, Brom did him dirty.
Bruce
dirty.
Bowen is not happy that I just scolded his alma mater or JMV.
Poor Walters. He got done dirty by Jeff Brom. Brom, right? Came up with the schedule.
And, of course, IU fans will say, I don't care one bit about Purdue playing Ohio State and Michigan. Welcome to what life in the Big Ten East.
Welcome to the life.
Is like. So, again, I like Hudson Card a lot. I know Purdue obviously has had a lot of turnover from Payne Durham and Charlie Jones and some of those important skill guys, but Devin Maccabee, breakout season for him. And just curious to see what Ryan Walters will bring. And a ton of transfers in West Lafayette, a ton in Bloomington, and we'll get the IU look at their matchup with Ohio State and their season starting probably Thursday.
I looked up Aiden O'Connell. He completed 71% of his passes in the preseason.
Have they announced the backup for Garoppolo? Like,
it's got to be him, right? Oh, Hoyer, please.
Is it O'Connell? That's an ex-Colt Brian Hoyer, by the way.
Listen, I know. Well, Brian Hoyer's been in how many teams? He's been with how many teams? So it's not a surprise he's been with the Colts. You want to transition back to the Colts here quickly?
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. Again,
actually, it was kind of funny you brought up quarterbacks and Jimmy G. Before we get into the roster cuts and the Jonathan Taylor situation, I saw yesterday we have betting lines out for the first quarterback to lose his starting job. I think I've mentioned before, really since May, I think the Colts have one of the least daunting schedules I have seen. I think it's one of the more tame quarterback schedules that I've seen. So on this list of first quarterback to lose his starting job in 2023, Andy, there was 11 of them.
Okay.
That are listed at odds 16-1 or better. So basically you had a tier of guys that somewhat of a chance that they could be benched here. Of those 11 names, 8 of them the Colts are going to see on the schedule this season. 8 of the 11.
You want me to guess who I think is on there? Because I don't even know. Baker Mayfield's got to be on there.
Baker Mayfield is the most likely quarterback to lose his starting job first.
Sam Howell?
The Colts do not play Sam Howell, but
he's on the list, right? Is he not? Mac Jones isn't on the list, is he?
Mac Jones is 5th.
Mac Jones is 5th.
I guess
Okay.
tied for 4th when you look at it.
Okay.
Exactly.
What about the situation in Atlanta?
Desmond Ridder just behind Mac Jones.
Yeah, I would imagine he's got to be there. But like all the rookies, I can't do any of the rookies, right?
All the rookies are on the list.
Okay, so Bryce Young's on the list
CJ
too.
Stroud, Bryce Young. Obviously, one of the 11 is Anthony Richardson.
Has to be. Okay.
So, again, 8 of the 11. Baker Mayfield, you play. Ryan Tannehill, you play theoretically twice. CJ Stroud, you would play theoretically twice. Mac Jones, Desmond Ridder. Again, Anthony Richardson's on it. Bryce Young, who the Colts will play in their only 4 o'clock game of the year, coming up around the midway point. Jimmy Garoppolo, they will play with the Raiders. They do not play Jordan Love and the Packers. He is on there. And then to round out the 11 that, again, are kind of separate from the rest of the group, would be Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
the Colts play.
Matthew Stafford, by the way, have you followed? Marc and I were in the studio, and ESPN missed their top of the hour break at the top of the 7 o'clock hour before you came in here with the beer. They were arguing about Matthew Stafford's wife going on her podcast and saying that, I
caught that over your shoulder and bled into the start of the 7 o'clock. I go, are we really talking about Kelly Stafford's comments on a podcast?
You're damn right we are. By the way, I have a beef to pick with that list. Ryan Tannehill. Okay. He's not going to get benched. Have you seen the backups there? Malik Willis is not any good. And Will Levis is injured and also is not anywhere near ready to play in an NFL game. Like, Tannehill's only going down if he's injured. He's not being benched.
Well, he got injured last year.
Yeah, but is it losing the job in any way? Is it because I see that as being benched, right?
At some point, if you all of a sudden, if what the spiral Tennessee had to close last season, if we see that again, 2-5, whatever, at some point you got to look at the Tannehill contract and think, what are we doing here? Why don't you just try one of these young guys? I don't know if it would be Willis. I don't know if it'd be Levis, but at some point it's like we drafted those dudes in round 2 and round 3 for a reason. Why are we throwing Tannehill out there, who is 30? What is Tannehill?
Well, he's getting close to the end. Yeah, but they think they're they think they're a playoff team. One last hurrah, another year or so with Ryan Tannehill. I don't know. To me, he'd be on the bottom of the list, and that's not me sticking up for him. It's just I don't think those other guys are anywhere close to playing. Like if Minshew were in Tennessee, it would be a different story, right? But he's not. I don't even know who the Carolina backup is. If Bryce Young goes down, who's the backup there?
That's a good question.
Derek Anderson still around? Derek Anderson. Carolina Panthers. I have no idea.
It's not P.J. Walker, right?
Is it Dalton? Yeah, Andy Dalton.
Oh, yeah. You know what?
Matt Corral's still there, too.
And Matt Corral's still there, who I actually liked coming out of college. I actually liked my Corral. Then he got injured and,
ACL,
whatever.
Right?
Yeah, Andy Dalton's going to end up playing and starting games in Carolina.
Okay, so the new Jonathan Taylor news from yesterday. Again, you have Ian Rapport that is pretty much saying, more likely than not, he gets traded. That's kind of where Ian Rapport is at. And you had Josina Anderson, who's another NFL reporter, mentioned yesterday, kind of two teams that have given offers and are working to construct a trade, and they are going to give Taylor a market contract. Now, market contract, I think, is something to define. I mean,
is that Chubb?
You look at market contract right now, some would say that's Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley getting 1 for 10 or 1 for 11. The Nick Chubb deal was 12 for 30 or 3 for 36, right? 12 annually. I've said all along 3 years for $39 million. That's kind of where I've been at this. So clearly there are a couple of teams that have gotten a hold of the NFL power media people and have mentioned that there is real interest in Taylor. Now, of course, how does the rest of today play out? That is something, of course, that we will be monitoring throughout the day.
Do you think they're reaching out to guys like Ian Rapport and company? And I don't know if we have that sound, if we want to play that. Do you think they're reaching out to put pressure on the Colts? Hey, here's what's going on. There are offers on the table. I mean, do you think that's it? But even when I say that, this story was a bigger story last week than it's been today and that it's been yesterday, right? It feels like.
Shout out briefly to Rosie Bowen here. Maddie just texted me and goes, Rosie's listening to the show on the way to school, and she goes, does Daddy have a new friend at work?
How about that? That's a very nice thing for her to say.
That. I do, Rosie. Yeah, Rosie, this is Andy Sweeney. Andy's going to welcome in his first child here. So a new baby for the Sweeney family coming up here in a couple of months.
We close on our house on Thursday, so I'll be jetting out of here.
Are you buying Jonathan Taylor's house?
I am not buying Jonathan Taylor's house. Okay. Where's that house at, by the way?
I have no
Which
idea.
huge gated community is that in?
If he even has a home here. But I know he got recently married. Mark, will you play that Rapport audio? Again, this is Ian from NFL Network this morning. So this is within the last hour, Ian Rapport on the latest that he is hearing with Jonathan Taylor.
All eyes are on Jonathan Taylor today. The Colts star running back who has been in the news for more than a month now, of course, requested a trade, then received permission to seek a trade. I'm told there are at least two teams still interested with offers to the Indianapolis Colts. The Miami Dolphins is one of those teams. They have been long rumored to be a potential landing spot for Jonathan Taylor. Time will tell if general manager Chris Ballard pulls the trigger on this trade. For me, just from what I know about the situation, hard to imagine Taylor returning to the Colts and playing for them, although I guess theoretically anything is possible. Either way, today should be the long-awaited conclusion of the Jonathan Taylor saga.
We mentioned this in the opener, Andy, but I think it's worth repeating again because a lot of this stuff can get complicated. We will get an answer on Taylor at 4 o'clock today. Not because the Colts have a self-imposed trade deadline necessarily, because you have to either keep him on that PUP list or bring him off of the PUP list, which means he'd be eligible to practice and play right away. We've had questions on this here recently, and I wanted to make sure that I double-check this and share it with our listeners. If you are on that PUP list, you are out for the first 4 games of the year. You can then come off the PUP list at any time. This is from the NFL. Players on the PUP list are paid their entire base salary. A player's contract will not be told. That means the contract will not be suspended and resume the following season while on the PUP unless the player's in the last year of his deal, which Taylor is, and he is both not able to perform football services as of the 6th regular season game and is not activated during that regular season or postseason. So this is information that I was unsure about when people were asking a week ago, so I wanted to make sure that we shared this. So basically, Taylor has got to get on the football field at some point here in 2023. You can't miss a full season due to an injury from last year and your contract all of a sudden be picked up when you're in the final year. So this is the NFL's way of saying, don't be too sneaky on us. You're not going to get away with that. So Taylor has got to get on the football field in some capacity this year if he wants to hit free agency next year.
Okay, so there's one consistent, KB, that has happened. And that's a good clarification by you. But there's one consistent from yesterday, this morning, and last week. And what is it? It's the Dolphins and a second team that have put an offer out for Jonathan Taylor. Now you may say, well, Andy, what do you mean? Here's what I mean. Only 2 teams have offered for Jonathan Taylor? I mean, this is the news that we had last week. That the Dolphins and somebody else have reached out about Jonathan Taylor. And listen, you could read into it that Balor's trying to play him against each other, that the offers aren't that great, that he's not going to be lowballed. These are things that we talked about yesterday. But I guess I'm a little bit surprised that for a week now, right? For about a week, we've had the 2-team narrative out there, and that's it. So when Jonathan Taylor was told by the Colts, go out and find out how much you're worth, yes, that can mean money, and it only takes one team, and ultimately he wants the money, and we've talked about it with a new contract, years, money, guaranteed money, stability, and everything else. But I think it shows the interest as well that only 2 teams have offered, right? Like, it's not that there's 5 or 6 teams that have offered, and they might be crappy deals, right? They might not be very good deals, but at least Ian Rapport or Adam Schefter or somebody else would say, yeah, 4 or 5 teams have deals. I mean, we don't know how good the Miami's deal is. If the Cowboys are the other team, or the Bears, or whoever, well, not the Bears, but the Broncos are another team. We don't know what they're offering, so it's not like I'm even saying Miami even has a good deal. I'm just surprised that we sit here today when something needs to happen, right? He's coming off the pup. He's staying in Indianapolis. He's leaving Indianapolis, whatever it may be. And KB, we're sitting here, and it's still just 2 teams. I guess that surprises me a little bit.
How much is that because you can't just offer a trade? You seemingly have to appease him contractually.
I mean, I guess you do. I mean, the narrative's
You're
been
not
floated.
absorbing the Christian McCaffrey contract from last year. You've got to sit down.
You have to get.
I would say the hardest part of the Taylor trade is, again, satisfying him contractually than it is coming up with a trade package. You can sit there.
Then that's his value. His value is 2 offers. 2 teams right now are willing to even have that conversation with him.
Because the contract is such an issue.
Right.
I think that's where you're having this. Because Stephen Holder, and we'll have Stephen on, as we do every Wednesday, we'll have him on tomorrow to provide any sort of clarity on whatever happens today by 4 o'clock. But I think Stephen originally said there are 6 teams that had interest.
It was
and
6
then
teams.
2 had made those offers. So, are those 6 teams initially, are they saying, okay, we have draft picks, and we feel like Jonathan Taylor's a great player. So, okay, a 2nd and a 4th. All right, that checks. And then they get to the actual offer, which, again, the offer has to include you doing something with him contractually. At least that appears to be what Taylor wants, kind of some of his...
At least short-term, long-term. I know it's been floated, well, you can play him for 1 year, and, and then you can let him go. I'm surprised it's just not, hey, there's a 3rd mystery team. Hey, there's a 4th mystery team, something like that. The number's been 2, and it's been 2 for an entire week.
Yeah, I think it's several things. It's the running back position, how teams view it. It's probably a little bit of unknown of where he's at health-wise. It's a little bit late in the offseason, so
absolutely.
You can't readjust your blueprint, things like that. And then it's draft pick compensation plus finances. That's not always the case with trades where you have a dilemma internally of like, all right, what draft picks are we going to give up? And then what are you going to do from a contractual standpoint? Because I'm sure, and this is my line of thinking, I've said this, for years now, don't draft a running back till day 3. That's just my line of thinking. I assume there are some NFL teams that probably agree with that. And so if you agree with that, you're not going to want to give Jonathan Taylor that sort of contract.
On top of that,
extension.
too, there's been no notable running back injuries around the league either. No one's gone down for the season or anything.
Yeah, you had the
like,
3-game suspension for Alvin Kamara, but yeah, you really didn't have a lot of running back.
And they drafted a guy.
Here
Look, Keandre Miller. Yeah, they drafted a guy, like you said.
Right. Okay. More on Taylor's situation. More on roster cutdown day. Again, 4 o'clock today. You'll have over 1,100 guys around the NFL get cut here by 4 o'clock. We'll chat with Joel A. Erickson from the Star on that next.
WIBC HD2 HD3 Indianapolis.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah. Hour number 2, hanging out with you until 10 o'clock. Joel A. Erickson will join us coming up here in just a minute. Reminder, we got you covered. All the Colts cuts, the Jonathan Taylor news all day here on The Fan. Query and Company coming up at noon, JMV at 3 o'clock. And we're hanging out with you, of course, in the DriveHubler.com studios. Well, let's get him going. Joel A. Erickson joins us here on this Tuesday in the 8 o'clock hour. He's on the Payless Liquors hotline, and he writes for the IndyStar. Joel, appreciate the time this morning. As you wake up this morning, the next step is going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. I'll ask you, what do you think as we sit here at 8:02 a.m.?
I kind of think he's going to get traded. I just feel like if there's teams interested, the Colts are probably pretty frustrated with the way this has gone. He's frustrated with the Colts. Generally, the only way that you get that frustration over with is to pay a player. They don't seem to be inclined to do that, which kind of leaves the last thing is to trade him. So that might be a little bit of a out there prediction, but I kind of feel like he ends up getting traded.
Joel, if you're the Colts, is there an element of you only keep him if you plan to have him past 2023?
Well, there should be, just given the situation and not wanting to go through this again. But the reality of the running back life is if they keep him, they can always just franchise him, and he doesn't have a whole lot of options beyond that. Other than doing, other than more of an overt holdout or whatever, it's just be more pain and agony. So. It feels like yes, that if you're going to keep him, you keep him beyond 2023. But the way the running back market is lately, they don't have to. They can they can keep it for 2024 as a franchise tag. But if he gets hurt again, then you can just say bye and wash your hands of the whole thing.
He's Joel A. Erickson. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline from the Indianapolis Star. Joel, I'm tired of talking about Jonathan Taylor, so I would like to move on, if you don't mind.
I'm sure he is as well.
Yeah, I am too. I'm right there with
I've been here for 7 shows, and I'm tired of it. I'm kidding.
4 o'clock today, again, roster cut downs. I have them keeping 5 tight ends. I don't know if that means a trade for Mo Alley-Cox at some point. I don't know if that means Jelani Woods to injured reserve to return after 4 games, but I have them keeping 5. Is that way too high of a number?
No, I actually have them keeping 5 as well.
Oh, really? Good.
It's a position where, if you're watching the special teams last Thursday night, Kylan Granson has kind of been the personal punt protector all off season. And, Alec Ogletree was doing some coverage stuff. Shane Steichen told us, those last, receiver spots, tight end spots, what they do there was going to come down to special teams. And if you have 2 guys playing it, I think it helps you. I think it helps you maybe keep more of those guys. I don't see as many of those guys at the wide receiver position. So I have them keeping 5 right now. Like you said, there's some wiggle in that with Jelani Woods and Mo Alley-Cox, and some of that stuff is hard to read. I mean, even like the center position, they waived Dakota Shepley, and I had him on my 53, I think, just because he played center and Danny Pinner had just gotten hurt. And I thought Wesley French had a couple of bad shotgun snaps during camp. Even reading that stuff is a little bit hard. I think. And I know you're right there with me on this, because we assume that whatever happens at 4 o'clock today is not going to be the final look at what the initial Colts roster is going to be.
Especially on the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
No. O-line more than any other spot. But I think there's a lot of spots that they could add. Yeah.
Just to follow up on the tight end, if Jelani Woods were healthy, And maybe I should ask you how bad that hamstring issue is. But if he were healthy and they felt like, hey, he's had a good camp, he's had a good preseason, maybe he's going to take the next step, how would that change the way you guys are talking about tight ends? Would they not have 5, do you think?
I think it could lessen the need. I mean, Woods, in theory, plays the Dallas Goedert role, and Goedert played I can't remember what it is, but I think it's 70% of the snaps for the Eagles last year. So in theory, it would lessen the need for some of those tight ends. But I think it's hard to tell. I don't really know with the hamstring exactly where it is. KB mentioned IR. If it's a really bad one, you could do that, because a really bad one, I think, is 2 months.
Mm-hmm. IR to return, just to not IR for a season over, just to clarify.
You would carry him today and then place him on IR tomorrow is what you would do.
Right. We hope baby Erickson, by the way, baby boy Erickson, is doing well. Joel, thank you for the time here on this Tuesday morning. Again, Joel A. Erickson with the Star is with us. Okay, wideout. I think the first 4 names are pretty obvious. That would be Michael Pittman. That'd be Alec Pierce, be Isaiah McKenzie, and Josh Downs. Number 5, I don't have them keeping to 6. Number 5 is where you get into some debate. Is Mike Strachan healthy? And I went with Juwan Winfrey, but I really have no idea. I just threw a dart at a board there. Is Mike Strachan healthy? What do you think about replacing Ashton Dulin?
So that's you hit the nail on the head there. It's the key is replacing Ashton Dulin, and that's not just about wide receiver. That's about special teams as well, kind of as I alluded to earlier. Strachan has not really played special teams in his Colts career, which is why I went with Juwan Winfrey at that spot. Now, I think this is another spot where you could see a claim. I don't know who's I haven't been paying attention to the other 31 teams, but there's probably a wide receiver out there who can do, I don't know if they have one out there who can play gunner the way Ashton Dulin can, but, is there a guy out there who gives you more on special teams? And then I think maybe there's a move there. I don't necessarily know that any of the wide receivers really jumped out at us. Usually there's a guy further down the depth chart that kind of flashes in camp, and it didn't really happen this year. Anybody who had a good day, it kind of went away after a couple days. So I don't know if there's an obvious one there.
Joel A. Erickson with us. He writes for the Star. He's hanging out with us on the Payless Liquors Hotline Tuesday on the Fan. Just as a follow-up, I know JMV's been talking about this a lot. I mean, Alec Pierce, I don't know. I kind of thought he would take a next step. Maybe not a great preseason. Go back to the Bills game, but not a great preseason in camp. I don't know. Do you agree with that? I think this is a guy they wanted to take maybe a little bit more of a step forward. I guess I'm a little bit worried about him going into the season, Joel.
I think that right now that's a little bit of an overreaction to preseason games. Is my take on it. I thought Alec Pierce actually had a pretty decent camp. And obviously the preseason games, what everybody else sees, we see all the practices. But Jim Bob Cooter was kind of saying those preseason games are a small piece of a big evaluation. That's kind of how it is for me. Until the regular season starts, we still have him in regular season games last year making catches against real NFL corners in contested catch situations. So I don't want to. Throw all that out based on the 2 preseason games.
Joel, I have no undrafted free agent making the 53-man roster. Frankly, I didn't put too much thought into anybody. We saw the local native, Emil Ekiyor Jr., already get cut earlier this week, the Cathedral in Alabama product. He was probably the most popular name just after the draft, given he was a 3-year starter at Bama and he was playing a position of need. Any undrafted guys that you see potentially carving out a spot?
That's a good question. I think all the guys I have are guys who were on the practice squad last year.
Yeah,
the guys who are sort of sleeper types, like Saguna Lowy and guys like that. I think they were on the practice squad last year, rather than being straight undrafted free agents, which that's a little bit weird. That's a little bit strange considering, we're talking about them adding a lot of waiver claims. Usually those type of rosters are the ones where the undrafted free agents are showing up, but. They also did sort of stuff the back end of the roster with a lot of these guys who are they've been in the NFL for a little bit,
Last one for me, Joel. In the answer might be offensive line, but what unit or maybe what player or a few players do you think didn't get much sleep last night and may not here for the next day or two with the waivers and everything else?
Oh, offensive line for sure.
Yeah.
Tight end. I think if you're a running back, you don't know exactly what's going on outside of Zach Moss and some of those guys. I think maybe you're kind of wondering, but yeah, offensive line, tight end just because there's a lot of guys on there who can play NFL football, and you're going, I don't know exactly what they're going to do. So yeah, I think those two spots.
Joel, thanks for the time, man. Hope baby Erickson's doing okay, and we will see you, I guess, tomorrow out at Colts practice.
He's doing good. He just hung on and slept a little longer than I thought he would this morning.
Yeah, all been there. Andy's welcoming in kid number 1 here in a few months, so he's getting a nice little dose of it right now. Thanks, Joel.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That's Joel A. Erickson right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. 3 boys in the Erickson.
Is that what it
household.
is?
3 boys.
That's a busy morning right there.
We'll see if we can arrange marriage, the 3 boys with the 3 girls of the Dykton household.
It'd be a superpower family.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones. Indianapolis media Game of Thrones.
I wanted to ask him, but obviously I know Joel's dealing with a lot. The last question I had was just, okay, where do you see some of the waiver wire activity come 4 o'clock today into tomorrow? And again, just to refresh everybody on how this process works. If you've played in the league for 4 years or less and you get cut today, you're exposed to waivers. And so that means starting at 4 o'clock today through I think it's noon tomorrow, teams can put in waiver claims. So if Andy Sweeney is cut from the Chicago Bears and I'm Chris Ballard, as long as the teams that drafted 1, 2, and 3, the 3 worst teams besides the Colts from last season, as long as they pass on you, if I put in a claim, I get you. You're on my 53-man roster. Now, I've got to make a move to do that, but let's go back to Chris Ballard history. In his 6 years as general manager, Andy, he has executed 8 cut-down trades, and I'd consider that like right now, like today, in this general area of you're cutting a guy, we're cutting a guy, we like your guy, you like our guy, let's just trade him. So he's done 8 trades in 6 years. Well, we can do the math there. That would mean a trade is probably possible, if not likely.
Yeah, the odds say that could happen today. It should happen today.
He has made 12 waiver claims in his 6 years. And if you look at when staff changes have occurred, Andy, his first year as GM, he looked at he looked at Ryan Grigson's roster and laughed at it, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. He made 5 waiver claims in that first year. The next year, when they went from Chuck Pagano to Frank Reich, they made a pair of waiver claims. And again, these seasons, it's not like they had the 4th waiver priority like they do right now. So they have a very high waiver priority. So a lot of teams are not necessarily going to jump you or have a better chance at getting these players. So considering the staff change to Steichen, considering where they're at waiver priority-wise, obviously 4 wins, I would guess they have at least a couple, if not 3 or 4, waiver claims here in the next 24 hours. Again, running back, wideout, tight end, probably not tight end, running back, wideout, O-line, corner. Those are some of the positions I'm watching. And just in general, if you had some of these guys ranked high in the draft, and all of a sudden...
Well, sure, that's the point, yeah.
They get cut by a team. Like, let's say, whatever. You've got a team out there that cuts a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
And the
you
Colts,
had a high grade on
and
them.
And the Colts had them, 89th or 102nd on their draft board. They might say, that's a position that we're deep at, but you know what? We would have taken them in round 4, round 5. Let's go ahead and do something like that. I go back to this story I'll share, Andy, and then I'll let you chime in. Back in 2017, the Colts were coming off a 4-win season. Chris Ballard had just taken over for Ryan Grigson, and Kenny Moore became available. Patriots cut Kenny Moore. And Ballard, as you see with the draft, he has a pretty strict guideline at corner. You need length. You need height. That is almost a must. Well, Kenny Moore at 5'9" doesn't give you that. But Kevin Rogers, one of the pro scouts for the Colts, late tonight is when they'll all sift through this film of all these guys that are out there and try to see who to put in waiver claims for. So 5-6 years ago tonight, it was Kevin Rogers saying to Chris Ballard, look, I know he doesn't meet your standard or what our standard is, but look at his wingspan. His wingspan makes up for a lack of height, this and that. He's super instinctual. We feel like he can play a slot corner. We know in a Matt Eberflus defense, that's really, really important. All of those things, boom, they make a waiver claim for Kenny Moore. After a lot of convincing, Ballard was very reluctant, but listen to Kevin Rogers, and boom, you see how that's turned out. So those are some of the conversations that the Colts are going to have here in the next 12 to 24 hours.
Right now, I'm looking at CBS Sports, and who knows how updated this is. Can you guess the teams that have made very, very little movement on cutting players? Obviously, you look at the Chicago Bears, Marc's team there. They've already listed about 15 guys or so. The Dallas Cowboys right now on their list, on their live running list on CBS, the Cowboys have only ditched 2 guys. The Bengals have only cut 1 guy so far, supposedly.
Did you guys happen to see the Belichick clip yesterday on why? I think the Patriots have started to cut guys.
Yeah.
And basically his explanation of why they do cuts a little bit earlier. I found this interesting.
No, what did he say?
Belichick can if you ask him about the history of Navy football, or if you ask him about why special teams matters in a game, he'll talk for 4 or 5 minutes.
I was in an elevator with Belichick. Oh,
really?
Yeah. Said a hello to Belichick. Yeah, it was at a Louisville football game. I cannot remember who they played.
Was he there scouting?
I don't know. I think so. Yeah, I think so.
What was his response?
He was just here watching football. That was it. Yeah.
Sounds like very Belichick.
I know you're here watching football. You're not chugging beer in the crowd like the rest of us. We know you're here watching Pigskin.
I thought you heard about the tailgate scenes here and wanted to come to Louisville.
He had a family connection there. Anyway, go ahead. What did he say?
So he basically explained, from a logistical standpoint, he's like, we want to do all of these in person. I don't want to cut 37 guys at the final hour. And he's like, a couple of other reasons. These guys have worked really hard. We want to make sure we're in good standing with their agents moving forward. For a veteran guy like Kenyon Drake for the Colts,
right?
For example, who they cut on, Sunday or Monday? You do that, and it's not like it's going to come down to the wire, and you allow Kenyon Drake to get a head start on what the next landing spot is for him. So I think those are some of the reasons why you see teams, say, all right, it's 90 to 53. We know what 90 to 75 looks like. Let's just cut those 15 guys, and then we'll get to Tuesday, and we'll sift through that a little bit more. I wanted to bring up, and Jim asked this on Twitter to us, Andy. Jim goes, what are your thoughts on Alec Pierce? I disagree with Joel. I saw no hands in separation against second-string defenses. That absolutely concerns me.
Well, that's why I asked, because other shows here have been talking about Alex Pierce. Talking about Alec Pierce.
Super relevant question there. Alec Pierce has been targeted 4 times in the preseason and has 0 catches. That obviously is an issue. Joel and I watched the same number of training camp practices. I can certainly echo what Joel said in that Alec Pierce has had a lot of moments in practice. And you would think, and Colts fans watch Alec Pierce as a rookie. Did he struggle on underneath routes? Certainly. Did he struggle to create separation in those, moments of an 8-yard in or, a little slant play, something like that? Definitely. But where Pierce makes an impact is his ability to kind of climb the ladder, show off his volleyball, background and an incredible family of athletes, climb the ladder and make a play. And that is what Pierce did at times in camp, and that seems to fit the Anthony Richardson strength. So I have some definite questions about him running a full route tree, continuing to ascend as a wideout, being a reliable guy, again, on a 3rd and 4 where you don't need the deep ball. Can you just win tight man coverage? I have questions there. But to Joel's point, I think Pierce showed last year, if you chuck it up to him outside the numbers, you've got a chance to hit on a big play. I mean, how many times did Pierce either draw a pass interference penalty or come down to the ball? So that's where I think Pierce offers you a high floor in that, given Richardson's ability to throw the ball vertically and Pierce's strength of going up and getting it, those plays should still be there. Now, if those all of a sudden go away, now we've got major questions. But if he can give you a catch for 30 yards here or there, or draw a big pass interference penalty, that still helps you out. Is that enough to be a second wideout?
Well, that's the question, right?
When you're number 1 wideout,
right?
We have debate on if he's number 1 wideout. No, but again, he can give you something there. So I'm not ready to say by any means that Pierce is taking a step forward from full route tree and those sorts of things. He had a couple moments where we were in the gray area with, was that a Richardson fastball? Should Pierce have caught it? We had a couple of those moments in camp as well. But again, outside the numbers, given Richardson's ability to throw the ball down the field, I still think you got something there.
Yeah, what's difficult, and you guys followed this so damn close, and I understand that. What's difficult is last year Matt Ryan was on the team. I mean the offense
Matt,
is.
Mark, play the audio.
I mean, if Pierce were on a team that may be a little bit better offensively last year,
who did the Colts have last year?
Oh
Mark?
Boy,
what did Frank Reich say at halftime?
I want to know what he's searching right now.
We have Matt Ryan.
So background on that audio, Andy, okay?
Please help me. Who is that?
Mark, Colts Titans, right?
Yep, Tracy Wolfson, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Colts Titans at halftime. Colts are down in the game, and coming out of halftime, I think they were shut out, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 13-0 at halftime.
I'm looking right now. It was 13-0 at halftime. That's a great memory by you.
Mike Vrabel is acting like they're down 13-0 in his halftime
Of course
report.
he is, yeah.
Frank Reich is saying, well, we have Matt Ryan. I'm thinking, wait, is he meaning we have Matt Ryan? That's why we're down 13-0?
He's trolling, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was trolling there.
We have Matt Ryan.
And Mike Vrabel was pissed that they were they were winning and he was
yeah.
mad. And then Frank Reich's losing. He's like, well, we got Matt Ryan. We're fine. Oh, boy.
I'm trying to look when. Okay, that game was. Hang on, let me go back to 2022.
Mid-October, late October, something like that. I
So
remember.
it was only game 4 at that point, and the Colts were 1-1-1. So at that point, the season wasn't over yet. So it was not
over at halftime.
Well, yeah.
I remember saying that on Monday, being like, "This sums up the culture with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee and Frank Reich in Indy." And that might have been unfair of me to say. I don't know. I think the resume would indicate that there's some validity to making a statement like that. Michael asks about Mike Strachan. Could you comment on him? The biggest, fastest, strongest receiver we have in year 3. I don't know if I would say that. Mike Strachan, I'm giving him the scissors, Andy.
No one has him making the team.
He's banged up,
right?
Doesn't play special teams. He's played 200 snaps in the NFL, and he's got, 5 catches? At this point, if Mike Strachan, if there was something there, I think we'd see it. Yeah, he high points some balls and makes some individual one-on-one plays in practice, but I don't see it enough.
You know who he reminds me of, and this is going to be a name where this is self-serving. Okay, no one in Indianapolis or listening wherever you're listening on our many streaming devices is going to know this name. There's a gentleman that the Giants drafted years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. KB, his name was Ramses Barden, and
sure.
Do you remember old Ramses?
I remember the name. I don't know anything about his career.
He was 6'6", and it was, remember when the Plaxico Burress was the big thing, and everyone had these big, tall, wide receivers. Remember Braylon Edwards?
Yeah.
Remember Braylon Edwards had a couple contracts, and he was very much in the news. He had these big, strong, wide receivers. It was the same time where everyone was obsessed with getting a basketball player, making him a tight end. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was that exact same time. The Giants got Ramses Barden at 29 catches. He never could do anything. That reminds me of him.
Yeah, and again, day 3, small school, COVID year, 6'5", wideout. I get the intrigue.
Exactly.
I understand it, and I'm fine. I'm not blaming. I'm not ripping the Colts for the draft pick. He's a 6th-round pick. Take a flyer on him and see what happens here. But yeah, that again, the 5th wideout for me is very wide open, but I don't have him making the team. We'll continue to get into these sorts of scenarios. Take a look at the 90-man roster, where the Colts have some room for flexibility here, and what they're going to do on cutdown day, again, coming up at 4 o'clock. For those that's missed the latest on Jonathan Taylor, we'll update you on that end. And again, is this a hard deadline at 4 o'clock, soft deadline? We'll touch on that as well. Before we get into all of that, let's do a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, let's start in baseball. Hate to say it. Let's start with the Cubs. Cubs losers to the Brewers. Sorry, Marc. 6-2.
Thank you for not leading off with the Reds.
We're being nice to KB today. It's going to be a long day.
Why? Why are we being nice to
You know what? I don't have a reason for that. Sometimes you just do things and you don't have a reason.
Rosie Bowen was asking about you.
That's exactly what it is.
Calling you my new friend.
There you go. It's very nice. Do they listen a lot? Does the family listen to the show?
I believe Maddie tries to play the show in the 10-minute drive to school, but I'm sure there are some mornings where Rosie's saying
music.
No, my favorite song right now is the Notre Dame fight song, and I want to hear it.
Damn song. Giants over
Damn song. We heard that song a lot on Saturday. Thank you very much.
Yes, you did. Giants over the Reds 4-1.
Are you going to abandon being a Reds fan? Are you going to abandon following this team?
At least the Diamondbacks
Bring
lost.
Marc in a nice six-pack of beer, a nice October-ish football season feel to it. He has not offered us any of those beers, and this is where we're at.
Well, he wants to drink all 6 of them. I don't blame him.
Just watching the Reds standings just lower and lower in the NL wild card race. It's okay.
Reds Cubs, by the way, coming up this weekend. You want to go double?
We've got beer
on
on the
that?
line for that, do we not? I thought we made a bet for the final 7.
Go ahead and fill Andy in on this.
You guys have so many bets.
I know.
I feel left out because I feel like I'm the gambling guy on the show, and I don't have any bets going on right now.
So, Marc, was that a 3-game series? Or
No,
4?
we made it. There was a 3-game series.
And the Cubs are up 2-1, right?
Yes.
So we got 7 total games, and these are the final
7 games the rest of the way.
So I'm down 2-1.
Uh-huh.
So I need a sweep to win.
It's a big weekend.
Uh-huh.
That's a big weekend. Reds now 1.5 games back. But, Diamondbacks lost. The Giants did win. The Cubs lost, so they got some help there. Also, in Reds land, they activated outfielder Stuart Fairchild, but they put McClain on the IL with an oblique strain. If you know baseball players or athletes in the oblique, he's done for how many weeks?
McClain greater than Fairchild.
The oblique is a thing you do not want to hear your favorite baseball player have.
Nothing. That was a nice swoosh there, Marc. Nothing bleak about Team USA's performance yesterday against Greece, particularly when Tyrese Halliburton got in the game in typical Halliburton fashion throughout this run through the World Cup. He helped spark a big-time bench effort as they kind of blew that game open, won by 28, I believe was the final score, over Greece. Here was Tyrese Halliburton afterwards. On the bench role, he is fully embraced with Team USA.
When you wear this uniform, when you play for Team USA, it's so much bigger than you. So you got to understand that and understand the legends that have came off the bench before us. We're no better than them. So, you got to understand it and understand that that's part of building a culture here at Team USA. And they've been able to do that over the last, however many years. So we're just going to continue that.
Clearly, Halliburton recalls a Carmelo Anthony performance off the bench or a Dwayne Wade performance off the bench in Olympics, and obviously it's a huge part of why or how Team USA has been able to have the resurgence that they've had of getting these guys to buy into no. If you come off the bench, you can have these huge roles for us on such an international stage. Team USA is moving on in the World Cup. They'll play their final group stage against Jordan coming up 4:40 a.m. tomorrow morning. Jordan's best player, by the way.
I was going to look up what the DraftKings line was. Go ahead. Yeah.
Jordan's best player through the tournament. I would think you will recall this name in the NBA. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson.
Oh, yeah. Arizona, right?
Yeah, Arizona.
Yeah.
Was he a net at one point? I don't know.
I think they drafted him pretty high, didn't they?
He is absolutely dominating the tournament for Jordan. So I don't know if Team USA is going to go boxing one on Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, but
what do you think the spread is?
I'll say I'm torn between 38 and 41.
You're very close. 42.5. That's on DraftKings. 42.5. I might take Jordan plus 42. Can I buy the hook? 43. That might be what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, honey, how you doing? Are you hanging in there down there? I'm going to wake up at 4:40 tomorrow because I got a big bet on the USA Jordan game.
Well, sometimes it's better not watching your bets. You might do better. Quickly, Indians and Buffalo tonight. That's 7:05. We talked about this earlier. Isaiah Rodgers picked up by the Eagles, so he'll sit for at least a season, and we'll see what happens there with their aging cornerbacks.
In a non-Jonathan Taylor trade, what are the odds of that happening today? We'll touch on that on the other side. Again, roster cutdowns coming up by 4 o'clock today for the Colts. We'll dive deeper into that on the other side. It's a wake-up call with KB and Andy on a gorgeous Tuesday here in Indy.
And it's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Andy, I got to laugh. You hear the Tom Allen clip there with JMV about not revealing his starting quarterback. I thought I was getting punked yesterday on Twitter. We're hoping to have Zach Osterman on, join us here later in the week, talk about the Indiana football season and upcoming here. Tom Allen, I believe, said yesterday in his press conference that he was not going to reveal who won the kicking job.
Okay. Listen, I want to be nice to Tom Allen, but come on. I'm the new guy. I want to be nice to Tom Allen, but what are we doing here, right?
I can assure you.
Come on, man.
I can assure you of two things. I can't assure you of much. I can assure you of two things. Ryan Day is not losing one wink of sleep worrying about who is starting at quarterback for Indiana on Saturday at 3:30. Do you think he is? Do you think the special teams coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes is worried about who starts at kicker for Indiana?
Okay, so quarterback, even though it's silly, quarterback's like, okay, who are they going to run out there first? And maybe there's a quarterback who's a pocket passer, and maybe there's a quarterback, a guy who's a little bit more mobile, who's a runner.
Left-footed or right-footed kicker here.
But here's the thing, but I have never... In your football life, Kevin Bowen,
never.
Have you ever had we're going to keep under wraps who our starting kicker is?
No.
Ever. High school, pee-wee football,
yeah, we've got Todd
NFL.
Yeagley, star defender on the men's soccer team that we've been training to be our kicker, and he's our secret weapon from 60 yards.
I just think right now Tom Allen needs to lean completely into it and just do this with the entire roster. Marc Stoops at Kentucky does a lot of oars. There'll be like 13 oars. It's like, so you don't know who's starting anywhere on your roster, basically, is always the question. That's what Tom Allen needs to do. It just needs to be a bunch of oars. 22 oars. Be a man up, Tom Allen. Do it. You might as well. You've already done it with a couple positions. Just do it with the rest of them.
So Ohio State going to play two quarterbacks on Saturday? They have not revealed, right? Who they have gone with?
I guess. Is this a Big Ten thing? What's going on? I love that. Here's the funniest thing. Georgia came out and it's like, here's our quarterback. Georgia's able to do it. The team that's trying to three-peat and not, lose a game for the third consecutive
Notre
season.
Dame announced Sam Hartman. I think it was late in the spring. Tyler Buckner transfers the next day. Alabama, I think, announced their starter yesterday. I mean, if Nick Saban's announcing it.
Again, if Kirby Smart and Nick Saban can do it, I'm pretty sure Tom Allen.
Your kicker?
This kicker better be good. If he misses
of all
a
the
big
things
kick.
we will remember of the Tom Allen era, I think not announcing his week one kicker might be atop the list. For those that missed it, we got a little Purdue insight earlier in the show. That'll be up on the podcast again. Week one in earnest for college football beginning this weekend. Noon kickoff for the Boilers. You can hear Indiana and Ohio State over on WIBC. 2:30, the coverage with Don Fisher begins there to take on the number 3 ranked Buckeyes.
Can I ask you one more college football thing before we move on? I know you have an article up. Want to talk about cuts. Jonathan Taylor, we have an hour and 20 minutes here. Obviously we don't think anything's going to happen until later on today. We'll have you covered all day here on The Fan.
Notre Dame, Tennessee State breakdown. Is that where you're going? Come on.
Do you know who Kenny Dillingham is?
Kenny Dillingham, the head coach of the Sun Devils.
Oh, my God. How did you know that? That's impressive. Mark, you didn't know that, did you?
No idea.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking. Well, I heard him, Arizona State put themselves on, probation. They took themselves out of a bowl game this year. And you can insert whatever joke there because Arizona State, are they going to be good enough to make a bowl game and everything else? But that's not why I bring it up. Herm Edwards is on ESPN.
You play to win the game.
But Herm Edwards was the coach that has all the sanctions at Arizona State, and he's at ESPN talking football.
Kenny Dillingham, to say he was fired up yesterday would be an understatement. And I get it. I mean, he's like, we found out at 6:30 a.m. this morning, and I had to tell our guys right before we came out to practice that they will not have a bowl or not be eligible to play in a bowl game this year. Yeah, awful.
Herm Edwards is talking football, KB, on ESPN.
Obviously, there will be zero punishment. Herm Edwards is never going to coach in college football ever again. Zero punishment on that end of it. And then the president, the AD, drops this news like now. And again, you can insert your joke about what bowl games mean for some guys. But, for a program like Arizona State, I mean, imagine telling Purdue or Indiana right now, you cannot play in a bowl game for a team that is desperately trying to win 6 or 7 games in a season, that's a huge deal.
By the way, double-barreled right now. NFL Network just did something on Jonathan Taylor. They're going to go to Ian Rapport here sooner rather than later. And then ESPN, Dan Graziano is doing the exact same thing right now. So if you're waking up today, hopefully with us, it's 8:40. I mean, you turn on the TV, it's going to be a lot of Jonathan Taylor here for the next little bit.
And I'll go back to that question that I threw at Joel Erickson of, if your plans are not to have him around for 2024 and 2025, why delay the inevitable? Maybe there is an ounce of you that says, okay, let's go back to the Marc Dykton point he brought up earlier in the show. We haven't had the running back injury yet this offseason. Maybe you get to late September, early October, that running back injury occurs, and now all of a sudden you've got something a little bit more. Now, devil's advocate would say that also means that team's getting Jonathan Taylor for a lot less in season than maybe they would be getting for a full season. But I think that's the question you have to ask yourself if you're the Colts. How much of this distraction, negative attitude, hanging cloud, all of that, how much do you want that around? Because the Colts have said that they have a deadline at 4 o'clock today. Andy, there's no trade deadline until October 31st.
Right. It's imaginary.
Yeah,
right.
So,
It's imaginary.
You can call it a deadline, but it's self-imposed and it's a soft deadline. The only deadline at 4 o'clock today is he staying on PUP and missing the first 4 games, or is he coming off the PUP list? That is the news we're going to find out. So we'll get some answer today, but I think that's the question you ask yourself if you're the Colts. Do we want him here long-ish term / is the distraction worth it? Because I tend to believe that these sides continue to be beyond dug in. Yeah, but I don't see in a snap of a fingers all of a sudden an extension happening like the Colts have done before. Because the Colts have done extensions just before the start of the regular season. Nyheim Hines, I believe, was the weekend of the opener. Quentin Nelson, I think, was the weekend of the opener. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Ryan Kelly was right around this early September time. They've done that. I just don't see that happening at all. And unless that happens, I don't think you're getting a happy Jonathan Taylor.
Well, they also, the question, it goes back to, we talked about this, and we'll do, listen, we have an hour and 20 minutes to continue talking about Jonathan Taylor here on The Fan, but, to me, what are the offers? Do they want to be embarrassed if it comes out and they got just a third rounder? Do they want to be embarrassed, KB, if they didn't get the haul? I'm just throwing that out there. You're asking the question.
Aren't you embarrassed already that a guy on the side of your building who you have thought would be a core player for you, and he's the third player to demand a trade in the last 12 months from your organization? Like, that to me is embarrassing enough. Going 4-12,
going 4-12, yeah.
You can't play the embarrassment game. You can't play the statement game. You have got to do everything you can to help Richardson. And if for some reason you don't think Jonathan Taylor should be a part of that, fine. You trade him and then you get return on him as best you can and you move forward. And now, if Jonathan Taylor is traded today, Andy, we talk about it for the next week or so, but Shane Steichen doesn't field questions on that once you get in season. Anthony Richardson doesn't field questions on that once you get in season. Chris Ballard will have a press conference tomorrow.
And that's it.
So,
right.
Time heals. And once you get into Jacksonville week, now the Taylor thing is gone. And as crazy and as weird as the Jim Irsay comment was a month ago about, if I and Jonathan Taylor died tonight, the NFL would move on. Again, it sounded very odd and very weird.
Technically, he's right.
He is right.
Yeah, he is right. I don't know what to, but it's you didn't need to say it. Is the Taylor thing gone if he goes somewhere else? And I think you're going to be able to set this aside. I don't know if I would be able to do it, and I'm certain that there are fans out there listening today that will not be able to do it. Hell, there's probably guys in this office, KB, that won't. And what I mean is, if he goes somewhere and balls out,
we will bring it up, but I don't think it's
Chris Ballard won't be asking, won't get questions about it, but fans won't be happy.
No, but again, that is outside of your building. Right now, it is inside of your building. Taylor is at practice. He's in these meeting rooms. How do players not look at him and be like, oh, gosh, is he going to play? Where are things, at with all of that?
Hines was signed September 10th, so that's a day before the season. Yeah. He was signed on a Saturday before the opening game. You're right.
Him and Nelson, I think, were both very similar around those dates. Now, let's go back to the Hines trade from last year, Andy. For those thinking, okay, are we going to get something at noon today? Are we going to get something at 2 o'clock? Chris Ballard, I would say in the history of his roster cuts, he has milked this thing till 4 o'clock pretty much every year. And I get it. Like, if other teams are going to release their cuts and make them public, you want to know who's out there. Okay, oh, wow. Jacksonville cut those wideouts? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we can cut these because we can make a waiver claim, for those guys. The Nyheim Hines trade last year, which, again, a fifth-rounder in Zach Moss, what they got in return, that was like just past the 4 o'clock trade deadline when it became official. So I would assume that, honestly, for Jake and James today, they're not going to get anything from
Well,
from,
no, it's
from noon to 3.
JMV's going to get the good stuff.
He will get
That's what's going to happen.
The gold. Something to monitor today, though, non-Jonathan Taylor news. I think there is certainly something today to keep an eye on. And again, tomorrow, from a roster activity standpoint, we'll explain more on the other side and the latest from a national perspective on Jonathan Taylor. Good Tuesday morning to you. Beautiful outside wake-up call. KB and Andy, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Got you covered all day. We have another hour and change, but we got you covered all day. Colts cuts, Jonathan Taylor, what's going to happen? Query and Company at noon, JMV. JMV going to get the good stuff at 4 o'clock. You know he is. He's going to get the good stuff. You heard the promo there. We have lots of college football coming up the next few days as well. Florida and Utah, that's going to be on Thursday right here on The Fan. Virginia, Tennessee on Saturday. West Virginia, Penn State on Saturday as well. It feels like football outside, and God bless football. College back, and then the NFL next week. Lots happening. Waiver wire, 53-man rosters. Everything's being cut right now. You have a piece up on the site, 1075.com, thefan.com. Go ahead. You tease something. Go ahead. What do you want to get to here in the final couple minutes of the hour?
Yeah, I think something to watch today, again, Chris Ballard-wise, non-Jonathan Taylor division, would be trades. 8 times in 6 years, Chris Ballard has made a cut-down trade. Probably the most notable of that being Philip Dorsett for Jacoby Brissett back in, I guess, 2017. Would that have been...
it's a good trade, by the way.
But, last year you look at Grant Stewart, who, for those that watch the preseason, that would be linebacker number 41 who had the crazy hair flying around. You traded a late-round pick for him. So I think that'll be something to keep an eye on today. Again, there's been 8 of those in Ballard's 6 years. And then as you look into tomorrow, he's made 12 waiver claims in 6 years. The most notable of that being Kenny Moore, Pierre Desir was another one, Al-Qadim Muhammad. So there's been names of guys that have come here and been starters for you. And again, your waiver claim priority now is 4th in the NFL based off how bad you were last season. So you have a great chance to, make more waiver claims just based off other teams not being above you. So I think those are some things to watch. One thing I wanted to mention with roster cuts, it's a new rule change this year, and the NFC title game, I think, was a big reason why. We saw San Francisco be decimated at quarterback in that game. This year, you can dress a third quarterback in a game, and he basically will be an emergency need only.
Yep.
And it doesn't count against your game day roster. So, not to bore people too much with numbers, but how it works is this. You got 53 guys on your roster each week. 46 of them can dress on game day. You have 7 inactives. Well, you can still dress 46 and then have that emergency quarterback that if Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew get hurt, boom, Sam Ehlinger can come into the game. I assume that means good news for Sam Ehlinger. I have Ehlinger making it. Now, again, he's got to make your 53-man roster. But just given how quarterback injuries happen, Ehlinger has always been a great pro. He, by all accounts, he can do some scout team stuff from a dual threat nature if you would ever want that. I think it makes sense to keep Ehlinger around. Maybe Shane Steichen will say, hey, no, I'm more intrigued by whatever. I saw Max Duggan just got cut, the TCU quarterback. Maybe there's somebody else out there that Shane Steichen will want, but I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's worth a spot on your 53-man roster to have an extra quarterback, and then on game day you can dress him without that counting against anything. So that's a new rule change here this season.
I'm trying to think who would not do this. I feel like teams are going to do this, right? Yeah, majority of teams.
Again, unless your roster you just think is absolutely a gold mine everywhere, which quarterback means too much. And Andy, I might look at it more of like how Dallas is viewing Trey Lance. It sounds like Cooper Rush is going to be the backup. So they're kind of sitting here and saying, it's our stash. We can stash him, still have him on game day, and then, okay, if something happens with Dak, that's where you go. This is a name cut, in my opinion, of note.
Here we go. Let's go.
He was not on my 53-man roster. I talked about it just a few minutes ago. Why? Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network. The Colts are waiving Mike Strachan.
Yeah, we talked about that, 30 minutes ago or so. So Winfrey gets the spot there, you think? He has to, right?
I'm not 100%
or they go get somebody else.
Yes, I think that could be a waiver.
That's it.
Amari Rodgers is a name that they could go with. Again, I have Winfrey for now. I mean, hell, they could only keep 4 if they wanted to, Andy, and just say, we'll find some whiteout in the waiver wire circuit. But, again, it is of no surprise to me that Mike Strachan got cut. He got banged up in that joint practice with the Bears. Mark, I think you and I were actually standing there when he got hurt, coming down with that one-on-one ball. That plays into it, and he's just never carved out a special teams role. And Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard have been very vocal. If you're going to be a 5th or 6th wideout, we can't just keep you around if you don't impact on special teams, because you already got 4 guys that are going to play a lot of snaps, and that would be Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, and Isaiah McKenzie. So this is of name recognition and note and training camp darling. That's the only reason why this is of note.
Why do you think he was 855 today and not 355? I mean, we didn't think we were going to get one newsworthy cut today from the Indianapolis Colts. And look at us.
And I guess, does this go back to kind of the Belichick comment I was making earlier of, there are guys that you just want to say, hey, thank you for your service. Maybe you have an agent that has a lot of clients.
Has a lot of guys, yeah.
that we like.
Yeah.
So this gets you a head start in trying to find that next home. So, again, that news from NFL Network that Mike Strachan has been cut. If you look at my 53-man roster, the latest on that, again, I've got 5 wideouts, the big 4 I just mentioned, and then Juwan Winfrey was my 5th. He's played in the league for 4 or 5 years. He's got a little special teams history. But, Andy, I'll be totally honest, I had a feeling Strachan would not make it, but the Winfrey is pretty much just a dart at the board.
Yeah, you can go find that piece up at 107. Why am I messing this site? I've messed the site up 3 times today. 1075thefan.com.
Boom, you got it.
I mean, I did get it. I messed it up 3 times. I even went to say it again because I knew I messed it up on the intro, and I still messed it up. Now, what are we gonna do, Mark, if KB gets the most right in the entire area on the 53-man cuts? Like, I would have to go and look at Erickson and go look at Holder and go look at all these guys and compare them all. Do we have an intern around here? Maybe.
No.
I didn't think so. You guys have interns? Do we get
had
interns?
them at one point.
Summer interns, right?
We only get summer interns around here?
Summer interns is usually
Those poor
our
interns.
specialty. Quick little rundown here. That 2021 draft, Mike Strachan has been cut. Again, Sean Davis, a 5th-round pick out of Florida. The other names, entering some critical years. Kwity Paye, round 1. Dayo Adengbo, round 2. No round 3 pick. That was the Julian Blackmon trade, I believe. Or maybe that was the Wentz 3rd-round pick of why you didn't have that. Kylan Granson, 4th round. Again, Sam Ehlinger and Will Fries, day 3. So, Kwity Paye, huge year. Dayo Adengbo, huge year. Kylan Granson will make the team. Important year for him as well.
I'm just throwing this name out there. Mike Garofalo of, NFL Network and other people are throwing this out there. The Chargers are waiving offensive lineman Zach Bailey. I guess he had a pretty good preseason. He is expected to be claimed. So I don't know. I'm just throwing out a name of somebody who could be on Chris Ballard's list at some point, and it's an offensive lineman, and we know they have absolutely no depth at offensive line and very little experience. So there you go. I don't know. Zach Bailey played for the Chargers.
I mean, Joel and I talked
South
about
Carolina.
that earlier, Andy, again, O-line is a must on the waiver wire. I talked about it since really the Danny Pinter injury last Thursday. If you look right now, if I were going to pencil in 6, 7, 8, and 9 on that depth chart for the O-line, I think it's 3 of the 4 depth guys never played a snap in the NFL, and the 4th one is a 7th-round pick who hasn't played since 2020. I don't think there are many teams around the league that would get to roster cuts and 6, 7, 8, 9 on their O-line depth sheet would have no guys that have played a snap in the league the last 2 years.
Yeah, they're going to do something at offensive line, you would imagine.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and
come
they
on.
have found a Mark Glowinski they found at waiver cut down. Like, they have found some names. Again, it's depth, but we know with O-line attrition, usually have to rely on that. Again, we'll continue to keep you updated if any other names leak, as we got, I would say, probably our most notable name so far here in the Colts cut, as cuts are due, coming up at 4 o'clock. And the latest on Jonathan Taylor. We'll touch on that on the other side. It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy here on 93.5.
The college football season opens with Utah hosting Florida. Thursday night at 7:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, I have a question pertaining to this song. You guys ever see the show Leftovers? HBO show? This was like their main theme.
No.
Neither one of you?
No.
Okay. All right.
Pixies playing tonight at TCU Amphitheater, by the way.
Are they really?
You going, Mark?
Pixies and Modest Mouse. No, I'm not going to this one.
Boy,
little date night?
I think I told you guys this. I went last week to OAR and Goo Goo Dolls there. Boy, the renovation is outstanding. And, like, the lawn seats are close, like, much closer than they used to be. And that was one of the real hot nights.
They're not 100 yards in the back.
When we went, and we were close enough, and we were, what, 20 feet in the lawn, maybe 30 feet in the lawn, but the overhang gets so far out that once that sun goes down, you are good to go there.
Yeah, you were dripping with sweat last week, weren't you? About 95 degrees out there.
Solid workouts walking to and from the car.
Last hour for us here on the Wake Up Call, KB and Andy Sweeney, that's me, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton hanging out with you another hour. Obviously, some cuts, what will happen today. The Colts get down to 53 players. That's by 4 o'clock. JMV will have you covered with all that. What happens with Jonathan Taylor, obviously, is going to continue to be the story today, tomorrow, and going forward. Can I bring up one thing before we dive into more JT talk?
Sure.
Where I am disappointed in myself, and I'm disappointed in the show, and I'm just disappointed, and I know yesterday was a Monday, and it's a reaction, and what's going to happen with cuts and what's going to happen with JT and the big weekend, and Sam Hartman looked great for your Notre Dame Fighting Irish and everything else.
Not just for your wife.
Guys, Bob Barker died.
I know. R.I.P.
And we didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
We're a wacky morning show. There we go. Bye.
At first, I was like, who wants to be a millionaire? Did I miss something there?
Bob Barker died. And of course, everyone was doing, he got as close as he could to $1 without going over.
That
he lived
is
to be
pretty
90.
wild.
Yeah, he lived to be 99, but I'm like, Bob Barker died.
Yeah.
How did we have 3 hours yesterday and we didn't spend at least 20 seconds to mention one of the great personalities of our life, right, KB?
Hand
Come
raise.
on.
Hand raise. Staying home from school and knowing that you were going to get Bob Barker on is one of the greatest things that...
Little snow day, maybe?
Oh, my gosh. Or just, hell, I'm
being
a little sick. I'll go over to Grandma's house.
Yeah, but if you're sick, you actually might be sick. I'm telling you, you get a snow day and you get Bob Barker. What are we doing?
Keep the eyes awake on the couch, watch the beauties, and watch Bob work his magic.
Is a sick day the same anymore with Drew Carey at the helm? I don't think so.
It's it's not. And he's done all he can, but they were showing like the best of Bob Barker. It's like someone's, I know someone who's been on the show, by the way.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he won a grandfather clock. And a year of Tide detergent.
That ought to be a pain in the ass to ship. Just saying.
Plus, what would you... I mean, that's something like those fit in some homes, and then other homes, I don't need the dinging and donging.
So when was Bob's last year? Did he get to 80... 5-ish, 88-ish?
I could look it up, but I want to say, I mean, Carey's been doing it for a while. Right?
Has it just been Carey since him?
Yeah, he's been doing it for quite a while. I'll figure it out. But I figured I'd mention that. What are we doing? We had 3 hours yesterday. We couldn't fit that in at all. What are we doing? That's I blame myself for that. I was very hard on myself last night and this morning over it. So there you go. Can I just ask you a question? Obviously, all the Jonathan Taylor stuff is out there. If he comes off the pup, whether he is with the Colts or not, what does that say about all of this injury stuff over the last couple weeks and what Colts fans will think about him going forward? I mean, obviously he's on the team. We're like, all right, good, let's go. Let's see if we can get him out there. But if he's in Miami or he's somewhere else, he's with the Cowboys, and he's parading around, and he's off the pup, and he's playing week 1, and by week 2 or 3, he's looking like Jonathan Taylor. I mean, that's another side to this entire saga.
Yeah, that is a good question. Now, I think if there are some Colts fans that didn't criticize, or criticize might be unfair, but, let's recall a couple of years ago in training camp, Shaquille Leonard misses the first 10 days of camp. He puts pen to paper. 3 days later, he's out practicing. So we have seen this before.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what everyone thinks would happen here, right?
And again, if you come off the PUP list, it doesn't necessarily mean that like you're immediately going to practice. It just means you're eligible to practice within the first 4 weeks of the season. If you go on PUP again, you're out for the first 4 games. We had a couple tweets Taylor related that I wanted to touch on. This from Jeremy. Taylor's been balling out for the Colts and haven't won at a high level. Who cares? Peace out, JT. There's certainly some people that have thought that. Now, granted, if you didn't have Jonathan Taylor in 2021, how many games would you have won with Carson Wentz at quarterback? How much did Taylor carry you to the brink of being a playoff team that season?
Well, that's why he's injured. He had to carry Carson Wentz. Literally on his back, he had to carry Carson Wentz.
I don't think anyone out there is blaming Taylor for not getting over the hump there in those final couple of games. Nathan goes, if Taylor isn't dealt today, then the Colts can refuse to let his agent find a trade new contract with other teams. So this is in reference to the soft deadline the Colts have given. He goes, Taylor has their permission now, but if they impose a deadline, all conversation with other teams from Taylor's camp would be prohibited. Again, this falls into the where are you if you're the Colts on this? If you think he's going to be with your team past 2024 or past 2023, okay, then maybe this is relevant. But if you have no plans, and I go back to all the Irsay comments, Jim Irsay owns this football team. People in this market know full well, if Jim Irsay wants to say something, he'll say it. Find me where he has mentioned a contract extension for Jonathan Taylor in the last month or two.
We haven't talked about one number. You know, this is only my 7th show. We haven't talked about one number. You've mentioned
the Colts
3.
aren't negotiating.
No, you've mentioned 3 for 39, and that's just you coming up with a number that you think matches what everybody could do, and you're looking at Nick Chubb's number, right? From a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it may be. No, we haven't had one conversation, and obviously they haven't had one conversation at all about any of this. I think I understand the notion of, well, you know, Jonathan Taylor's been here and we haven't won at a high level, so if he moves on, big deal. And I
how much worse would it be if you didn't have him?
I think that's one side, and also it just it's a finality that, yes, but also let's remember what you have this year, and that's a rookie quarterback with 13 starts and 40 dropbacks in the preseason.
And when I watch the first and third preseason games, and I'm seeing Deion Jackson and Evan Hall getting what's blocked, I'm thinking, what could be there if you had the home run hitter? And not just a single setter, because there are lanes. Anthony Richardson creates a major threat to opposing defenses, and it opens up opportunity. And obviously the Colts were vanilla as hell, and sure, they're going up against backups, but what could be there with the home run hitter? And again, let's not act like Taylor wasn't a part of you winning 11 games in his rookie season as an 1,100-yard rusher as a rookie, or the next season with Carson Wentz at quarterback, you had to totally pee down your leg in the final 2 weeks of the season to miss the playoffs. Taylor I go back to the play, which is probably Taylor's most iconic play. The Patriots game here inside of Lucas Oil Stadium that Saturday night in December. You got a 20-0 lead. You're trying to ice it away, and Wentz can't throw the ball from me to Marc. And everybody in the stadium knows that you're running it. And Taylor gets 2 yards on first down, and it's 2nd and 8, and you run it with him again, and you're maybe getting 2 yards. Dante Hightower, Devin McCourty, they're staring straight in Taylor's face. 2 Pro Bowl defenders, and he puts one cut in the ground, and boom, he goes right for 67 yards. You don't win that game without him. Michael Pittman ejected from that game. He's in the locker room. Carson Wentz, everything is on his shoulders, and he can't do anything. And yet with him throwing left-handed passes and having big turnovers, you still had a chance late in the year. And again, all of that's more like win-loss related. I'm talking about trying to give Anthony Richardson support and trying to alleviate some stress off of him and giving a very, in my opinion, barren skill group, giving them something of note.
Just quickly, Diana Rossini, who went from ESPN to The Athletic 2 minutes ago, tweeting out, quote, today is the deadline for Colts running back Jonathan Taylor to find a trade partner. While there are interested teams, sources tell The Athletic, I'm told as of right now, the Colts have not been presented with a significant offer. She says there is still time, but that is the reporting 2 minutes ago from The Athletic's Diana Rossini. Again, interested teams are out there. She is told right now the Colts have not been presented a significant offer. And to me, that would be obviously a first rounder, but to me, it would be even further, KB. It'd be probably what? A 2 and a 3, a 2 and a 4, probably a 2 and a 4 have not been presented to the Colts. Is that fair to say? Maybe it's unfair, but that's how I feel.
Is that the Colts reaching out to her and saying, hey, will you get this out there so teams will up their ante?
Adam Schefter reporting Colts are releasing veteran safety Ronnie Harrison also.
Former high draft pick, but a guy that I did not have on my 53-man roster either.
You're going to nail all 53 of these. You're going to be taunting Holder and everybody else.
There's always about
Can't
3
wait.
or 4. Yeah, obviously in that, I don't know if that differs a ton, but the Ian Rapport comment from earlier today about, it still feels like that more likely than not he gets moved. I'm just glad come 4 o'clock we'll get an answer. It's not necessarily the answer of a trade, but it is are you off the pup list or not? So that is something. We'll get an action, and then tomorrow we'll hear from Chris Ballard. And it's the first time we've heard from Ballard since the start of camp, when at that point he didn't think Taylor would be on the pup list.
Is that a Zoom or is that that's an in-person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Colts have a 3 o'clock practice tomorrow. I think typically they do. Ballard will talk either during or after that practice. So yeah, and that's the last time we typically hear from him until
for
the
months.
season's over.
Yeah. Marc, do you have the Ian Rapport still up by any chance? This was Ian Rapport literally about an hour and a half ago on the NFL Network talking about JT.
All eyes are on Jonathan Taylor today, the Colts star running back who has been in the news for more than a month now. Of course, requested a trade, then received permission to seek a trade. I'm told there are at least 2 teams still interested with offers to the Indianapolis Colts. The Miami Dolphins is one of those teams. They have been long rumored to be a potential landing spot for Jonathan Taylor. Time will tell if general manager Chris Ballard pulls the trigger on this trade. For me, just from what I know about the situation, hard to imagine Taylor returning to the Colts and playing for them, although I guess theoretically anything is possible. Either way, today should be the long-awaited conclusion of the Jonathan Taylor saga.
Again, that was Ian Rapport this morning with his latest. He has been on the side of the fence. I think that it's likely he does get traded compared to some others. This right here from Sean. Sean goes, I would pay Taylor $16 million a year if that gets him in a Colts uniform for the next 3 years. Who gives a bleep how much he makes? It's not like it's going to cost us a Super Bowl. Ballard will just waste it on average guys. Running back is worth way more to the Colts than most franchises because other franchises have quarterbacks that can throw the ball. We are running the Wildcat. Obviously, there's a lot of ingest comments in there, but I also think there's a lot of validity in that statement. And we brought this up a little bit, Andy, of I think oftentimes we get into semantics with money and years and contract value. None of that matters. What matters, are you going to get the quarterback right or not? That is what matters. And, when people, again, bring up, okay, what did Josh Allen have his rookie year? What did Lamar Jackson have? Lamar Jackson won a Heisman. Josh Allen had double the starts of Anthony Richardson. None of these people can be compared to Richardson. So that's where I look at it, and I am probably side with Sean in that comment of where else you spending this money? It's not like you spend it. So if this is a guy that is going to help the development of your quarterback, then I'm okay with spending that. That's how I view it. And it's early in this process, and Anthony Richardson does not strike me as this type of individual. He strikes me as a guy that comes from a very, very humble background, and that's stuff we can get more into as we lead into the season. But Andy, there comes a point in time where the commas and the zeros start to grow. And I think it's only a matter of time before the quarterback in the NFL gets to the point where the star player is in the NBA. And the quarterback in the NFL is going to dictate what they want. We already see guaranteed money rising very, very high. And so there's going to come a time where Anthony Richardson could be in a position to where he gets to call the shots more or less. And is he going to look back on this situation, and is that going to have a negative impact on him or not? And again, I blame both parties. I don't want to act like I'm just blaming the Colts here. Taylor has not handled this greatly either. But is that going to be do first impressions last? Because this is the first impression that you're making on the guy.
It's like the opposite of love at first sight.
Does this last?
I mean, listen. If you're Anthony, listen. If you're the Colts fan, Anthony Richardson in 3 years is so good that they look at him and they say, "Let's bring you in. You are part of the brain trust here as we make decisions, whether they be contract, who we bring in, whatever it may be." You know, KB. One thing I struggle with, and in baseball, you get a lot of this, and the Colts are squarely sitting to where I think a lot of this has to do with how you view prospects, right? A baseball team moves, if the Angels would have moved Ohtani, for instance, they could have sold their fan base what? Instead of a couple months of what's turned into bad baseball, they could have sold their fan base all of these different prospects. That's what the Mets are doing. The Mets got rid of all their old pitchers, and they're like, well, we got prospects that in 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it may be. Now, it's different in football because the guy doesn't sit for 4 years. Unless you're a Packers quarterback, then you might sit for a couple years. Thank you. Look at that. That's the best producing. That's the best damn producing Marc's done in my
Packers.
7 shows. Really, do you?
Packers
That one's always ready to go.
That one's number 1 on the list for Marc.
I mean, like our picks. Some fans are going to be turned on by picks. Oh, we got rid of JT and we got a 2 and a 5, whatever it may be. I struggle with that, and I understand your point. If you're not going to extend them, if you
gotta get return on them.
you got to get return on them. I guess what I'm saying is the return can excite some people.
Yeah,
the
I
return for me, it confuses me, KB, because a third-round pick can be an offensive lineman who's in your system for 2 or 3 years and doesn't do a damn thing, and we're sitting here in 3 or 4 years saying, hey, remember him? He was the JT pick. Now, it can be the exact opposite, but I can understand if there's Colts fans that are skeptical of saying we're going to get rid of a known commodity for a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick. How many fifth-round picks are being nailed in the NFL?
Right. I mean, obviously, let's just look at second round. Let's say the Colts get a second rounder in return. It could be Braden Smith, who all signs point to him being an 8 to 10 year starter for you at right tackle, a very important position. Or it can be Ben Banigou, who was just cut by the Cowboys. And obviously didn't work out here.
There you go.
So, I mean, yes, you have two ends of the spectrum. It comes back to the return that you would be getting for him. Again, we do have one, I would say, notable name that has been cut so far. Marc brought up Ronnie Harrison. He was just signed about a week or two ago. The Colts took some flyers late in camp on some former safeties that have been taken in the second and third round. Tease Tabor and Ronnie Harrison, both of them, again, cut. But Mike Strachan from NFL Network reporting that he has been cut. And he's a guy that I did not have on my 53-man roster for a couple of reasons. One, no special teams impact. That's the biggest. Two, I still don't see consistency in games from him. Three, a little banged up late in camp. That doesn't help. And this goes back to the overall offensive philosophy and why I'm curious what happens with Mo Alley-Cox today. What happens with Jonathan Taylor? Shane Steichen runs the show offensively. Shane Steichen's got no ties to Mike Strachan. He might look at Strachan in camp and see, whoop-de-doo. He made a couple high-point grabs in one-on-one. Where's the 11-on-11
He's
work?
been coaching some pretty good receivers.
Where's the special teams work?
And in the Chargers.
So I think
from San Diego, by the way.
I think that is something to keep an eye on. This one here from Tim. Irsay's got an extra $20 million on the books with the Orca not around anymore. Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Marc leaned over like I thought.
Lolita.
I thought he was going to hit a sounder. I was wondering.
I'm sure I have a whale sounder.
I was going to say, what whale sounder does he have ready to go?
There was a time that I thought Lolita might be the 4th overall pick. I thought, we should be paying more attention to mock drafts.
I got to be honest, on second-round picks, Ballard hasn't been that bad. I mean, there's some absolute busts on here. I mean, don't get me wrong, but there's some good players on here as well.
You'd certainly throw Shaq Leonard in there. Obviously, you would throw Braden Smith in there.
Well, Pittman was a second-rounder, right?
Pittman and Taylor fall into the second round.
Paris Campbell wasn't bad. Thank you for him.
Second-rounders, you got guys like Ben Banigou didn't work out, Rock Yassin. One more time before we get to morning checkdown and our pop quiz. Just a little lay of the land for today. Again, 4 o'clock is when roster cuts are due. Then you'll get into the waiver claim period. 16-man practice squads assembled late tomorrow. Just a couple of, definitions, if you will, to look forward. You're going to see waived and released today. Waived is for the players that have less than 4 years in the NFL, i.e. Mike Strachan. So now Mike Strachan gets exposed to waivers. So if Marc's Bears with Matt Eberflus, if they want Mike Strachan, they're going to get him because they are number one in the waiver priority based off last year's record. Whereas a guy like Ronnie Harrison, he's been in the league for longer than 4 years. So he, and I'm pretty sure Schefter said that he was released, which means he heads straight to free agency. If you've been in the league for longer than 4 years, you get to become a free agent right away versus waived means less than 4 years, and you get exposed to the waiver process.
Right now is the biggest name. Here's as we sit around and listen, there's going to be more, whether it's the Colts or somebody else. There are going to be notable names, and there eventually, KB, there's going to be a name or two where you go, oh, wow, he's not, he got cut, he's now a free agent, he got waived, whatever it may be. Right now, is the name Colt McCoy, is that the gem that we have at 922, that Colt McCoy is the most surprising name that we have? And by the way,
so fill me in on what Arizona's doing now. Is it Josh Dobbs and
they brought in Dobbs,
Clayton Tune?
Yeah, that's it. Shout out knowing that. Clayton Tune is a player.
They got to do something else, right?
I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you can bring somebody else in, but Dobbs is the guy.
Can you do what the Colts did, a handful of years ago? They did the Dorsett for Jacoby Brissett trade on cutdown.
Right.
Do we see that out of it? I have no idea who the third QB and some other. Obviously, Ellinger is not. Now that I say it out loud, I'm thinking to myself, Jonathan Gannon used to be here. I don't know.
I would argue that P.J. Walker for the Bears is probably the biggest surprise.
So he's not going to be the backup, Mark?
No, they cut him.
Okay, that might be the
they signed him into a 2-year, $4 million deal in the offseason, and he was one of their first cuts now.
So they went with the guy that played well against the Colts.
Tyson Bagent.
Yeah, I was gonna call him Bagel.
Yeah, he's been impressive so far.
Well, now I'm just going to call him Bagel now.
What's your favorite bagel?
Oh, man.
Asiago cheese for me.
Well, the question is, what do you put on the bagel? You a cream cheese guy?
Yeah.
You a bagel and lox guy? You some people like a little peanut butter. You just a little butter? I don't know. Who's got the best bagel in Indy? I don't know. We may need to reach out. No, they're trying to get Caleb Williams. That's what the Cardinals are trying to do. They're starting Josh Dobbs. He got there 5 days ago, KB. He just got there, and he's Josh Dobbs.
Greg goes, you should have put some bets on your 53 hitting. Could have added to the Rosie and Max college fund.
You damn right.
That's the show of a true degenerate.
I wish I was as smart as Greg. Met Greg at training camp. Great individual.
If you're betting on a 53-man roster article, I don't know.
What sportsbook's taking that?
Victor Hovland, nice payout for me with the tour championship here.
Oh, there you go. Who's the local guy? Didn't he finish top 10? Top 10?
Did he end up getting top? He was hovering.
It was close, yeah.
Right around that, yeah. Shout out to Vincent's, Indiana. Shout out to the Sod Farm down there. Adam Shank, great individual. His son, AJ, hell of a year.
Well, there you go.
We got the Ryder Cup announced here at 10.
Oh, of course, 10:01.
Do you care at all? Did you go to the Ryder Cup when it was at Valhalla in 2008?
I was there. Yes, I was.
Look,
Valhalla when Rory won. How many years ago was that? Like 7-8 years ago.
That's a great accent.
You like that? Me and so we had press passes, right? You had press pass and everything, and we were out there broadcasting and everything else.
That was in the dark, right? Rory won.
It was in the dark. So me and a radio gas bag buddy of mine, who's in Nashville now, by the name of Jared Stillman. He was working in. I can't remember if he was still in Louisville, but he was there, and so we had press passes, and we're walking around, okay? And you got to find, you have to stay outside the lines, even if you're media. If you remember, Tiger Woods was back. Remember, it was one of the times where he came back, and it was a big deal, and he was going to play. Eventually, he didn't make the cut, but we got inside the ropes. We walked with my guy Pat Forty and Tom Rinaldi, who was at ESPN.
Oh, yeah. Did he make you guys cry walking down the first fairway with some
Of course, I just saw his face and I immediately began to weep. But we're sitting there. We followed Tiger for about 14 holes inside the ropes.
Gosh, my jealousy.
When he was putting, it was between it was like basically the distance between us. Is like literally that's where we were that close.
Mark, I need to go to the bathroom after hearing this story.
And we did not have any sort of special access. So, when it comes back next year, what's it, the PGA, I think, at Valhalla?
Will Tiger be playing?
A little VIP action might be in our future. Who knows?
Kevin needs to go towel off now because of your Tiger Woods story.
Go fan myself here.
I had a co-host that I worked with before who hated Tiger Woods. He was the exact opposite of you. Loathed everything. Loathed everything.
Jake hates him too.
Jake hates him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come
I get
on,
it. You know,
Jake.
people hate him.
Come on, Jake.
We've had, again, varying Jonathan Taylor reports before we slide into this morning checkdown. This is from Barry Jackson, who basically I would kind of say Barry is like the Mike Chappell, Stephen Holder. You know, he's a long lineage in Miami. He's been all over this Taylor story from day one from the Miami side of it. Barry tweets out, Dolphins and Colts remain in discussions on a Jonathan Taylor trade. I do not know what will happen in terms of what Colts will ultimately accept. Everyone would just be guessing. Fluid situation. Today's deadline for resolution is only a loose deadline.
How much?
Loose is better than I've been saying soft deadline. I think loose is probably the better way to describe it.
How much do people care? And like, I understand it's you got to get something back, but you just don't feel like, if the Colts don't feel like the value is there, it's not black or white for them, right?
Well, that now gets back to the earlier discussion we had, Andy, of, okay, are you willing to get into the season, let the cloud hang over,
right?
Let the distraction, the negative, whatever, hang over, but then you're hoping for the in-season injury. I guess that would be your hope. You're hoping for something late September, early October.
Or he plays. I mean, that would be the other thing.
Into the dilemma. Then do teams look at that and say, okay, he's playing. We feel better about his situation, so now we're more willing to trade. Or you run the risk, obviously, of him getting hurt when he plays. And then you have some teams that, okay, what's the value for him for 17 games versus 11 games? So these are all debates to have tomorrow and beyond, potentially. But again, I would consider it a loose deadline just because outside of, and I guess this goes back to Nathan's point earlier, outside of potentially the Colts restricting his representation from engaging teams after 4 o'clock today, there's really no real deadline outside of him coming off the PUP list or not.
I'm just not frustrated. I'm surprised the second team isn't more roundly known. Does that surprise you at all?
I'll vote Broncos.
I guess, you know what? I'll follow you. I'll say it's the Denver. I'll say it's the Denver Broncos as well. I got no problem with it. I mean, I've already put out there Dallas Cowboys, but they've been so quiet. You figured Jerry Jones would utter something, so I guess it's not going to be them. So Denver makes the most sense, I guess.
How about the Seattle Seahawks?
Ooh. Okay. What about Kenneth Walker?
Yeah. What about him? If you get Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, boy, that's a lot of skill in that room.
I'm just
DK
saying.
Metcalf.
They're really
Lockett,
banged up on their offense.
J.J. Smith.
Who's the other guy they got? Is it Dodd? Who's the rookie wide receiver who's balling out there in Seattle?
Well, they got the Ohio State guy, right?
Yeah. Well, they have him too. Yeah, he's injured, but I mean,
banged up right now.
Yeah.
And Jigba is who you're thinking of. Is that who you're talking about?
What about the Rams?
What about the Rams?
Wasn't that a team at one point?
Me and Marc were talking about the Rams today.
Needs to gel with some veterans, apparently.
Jake Bobo is Dodd. Jake Bobo is who I was thinking of, the wide receiver there. Have you not seen that? I should have been quiet for our fantasy draft. I could have taken him in the 20th round. Oh yeah, there's this rookie Bobo.
Sounds like an act of the state fair.
It does.
I thought you were talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba.
No, Bobo. Listen, look out for this guy.
Obscure. Played college at UCLA.
Yeah.
He's already 25 years old. So he's an older rookie.
He's an old, mature guy. Yeah, he's tearing up the preseason. He's been like the preseason darling, Jake Bobo.
317-239-1070. Our fantasy football league is filled. Marc, we've had accepted invites.
All invites are accepted, including the one you handed out on Friday afternoon.
He says that in such disdain. We'll draft here coming up a week from Thursday.
For all the hate mail, I'm just saying that send it to Kevin.
Before that, let's lead off the morning checkdown with Team USA, Andy.
The morning checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, another win for the United States. Tyrese Halliburton off the bench, 9 points, 3 assists. How about 3 blocks in 21 minutes for Halliburton? Him, Austin Reeves, Paulo Banchero, and company continue to be a pretty nice trio off the bench. It was close throughout the first quarter. That group got in there. They expanded the lead to double figures. They beat Greece by 28, so they are on to the next round. We're still a ways away from getting to semifinal, final action here. And again, in 2019, Andy, Team USA, I think it was 7th place. They got the World Championship. So this is not like a slam dunk for them. France already is out with multiple NBA players. So right now, I'd say Canada, Germany, those would probably be some teams to keep an eye out for. But The final game for the United States here in group play is at 4:40 a.m. tomorrow morning. That is against the country of Jordan.
Yeah, just quickly in baseball, Reds losers last night 4-1 in San Francisco. Cubs losers at home to the Brewers 6-2. Those some notable ones. And I just saw this. It doesn't matter. Scotty's in here. He may have seen this on ESPN. The Rangers and Mets last night. Now, nobody cares here in Indianapolis, the Rangers and Mets. The Rangers were 0-47 this season when trailing going into the ninth inning, and they won last night to break that streak. How about that? 4-3. The Reds, of course, a game and a half back for the final wild card. And Indians, they're in Buffalo tonight for a 7:05 matchup.
On the other side, we will do the pop quiz. 317-239-1070. Pop quiz.
Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
This pop quiz stinks. I mean, just stinks.
It stinks.
Oh, Scotty, you kidding me?
Coming out of the gate hot at Scotty, who's got his Atlanta Braves fit on today.
Unbelievable.
I'd like to do a segment. It'd be more of a video segment, Scotty's Closet, because he has so many, well taken care of jerseys and team apparel and hats He does not mess around.
Like an MTV Cribs, but for the radio station.
Sure.
It's my crib. Look at my lava lamp.
Yeah. My closet's in Max's room. I don't think it looks like Scotty's
Wait,
closet.
okay, so between you guys, there's 5 kids. Is anyone lava lamp still? Or lava lamp still something that's purchased? Is the only place you can get one of those Spencer gifts?
I'm picturing Rosie running into the lava lamp, and all of a sudden it breaks and it's pouring onto Max. That's what
It's pouring lava?
No. No lava lamps. It's all just like stepping on like Disney toys and crayons and everything like that.
Stepped on one of those plastic eggs the other day.
God.
Oh my gosh, I thought I had plantar fasciitis.
Okay, just I don't know what that is. What's
just
the
like a little
egg?
toy
okay,
egg,
gotcha.
You can take the top off, put it back on.
Oh yeah.
My daughter was pushing me that
Max
day.
loves
I jokingly fell over and I fell right on the back of like a Hot Wheels ramp, and I was like, I need to go to QC Kinetics right now.
Yeah, QC's happy. Keep going, guys.
317-559.
Keep stepping on those eggs on a Tuesday. Again, reminder, if anything happens here in the final 20-25 minutes, we'll have it. Query and Company coming up at noon. JMV at 3 o'clock. We'll know a lot more today, not only about that 53-man roster with the Colts. We'll know a lot, or at least the next step in the Jonathan Taylor saga. Do you want me to give a number from 1 to 10? Or do you,
Sure.
You know what? Why don't you do it today? Why don't you do it today? We'll switch things up.
Okay, roster cuts are down to 53. Let's go 5 minus 3 is 2.
Is this Jake Math you're doing?
2.
Randy.
Who we got here? Randy?
Hello.
Uh-oh. Randy's a veteran, Andy. He's been known to to have some pretty special performances. It's going to be needed for today's pop quiz. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing okay so far.
All right, well, good.
Bengals are releasing Trevor Siemian. Is that Arizona's Week 1 starter?
Well, I mean, they have Josh Dobbs, the Dobbs Simeon. Can you imagine doing that sports talk radio?
Set check.
Who's going to win the starting job, Simeon or Josh Dobbs?
Randy, over under 6.5 wins for the Colts this year.
I'm going to go over just because I think it's going to be somewhere between 5 and 7. I'm hoping for 7.
Okay.
Do you care if Jonathan Taylor is on this football team in a few weeks?
I think the whole situation has been really messed up. So I would like him to be, but I guess we'll find out later today.
That's the thing that probably...
It's a very accurate, simple way to put it there.
If Taylor were on the team and none of this was going on, the over-under, more people would be fine with betting the Colts win 7 games. I know it changes the way I think. All right, 5 questions. You ready to go, Randy?
Sure.
All right, let's go. Question number 1. Baseball, Ronald Acuna Jr., he homered and stole a pair of bases in the Braves' win over the Rockies last night. Acuna now has 29 homers and 61 steals this season. That's crazy. Name the last player to hit at least 30 home runs and steal at least 60 bases in a season. Is it A, Ricky Henderson, B, Willie Mays, C, Jose Canseco, or D, it's never been done before?
It's never been done before.
I like it. He has 61 steals this season?
I'm trying to jot down all the Colts players that have been cut. We got another name.
Did something
here.
happen?
We can get to.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. Okay, rookie Kyle Harrison here. Randy struck out 11 Reds over 6 1/3 shutout innings last night as the Giants beat the Reds 4-1. My middle finger over at Scotty. Harrison, who turned just 22 earlier this month, the 3rd youngest pitcher in Giants history to strike out 10 or more hitters with 0 runs allowed since the mound was set at its current distance in 1893. The first was Hall of Famer Christy Mathewson in 1901. Who was the other? Gaylord Perry, Madison Bumgarner, Juan Marichal, or Tim Lincecum? Forgot about Lincecum.
I did too.
I will go with Lincecum.
He was special there for a while.
All right, question number 3, Randy. Royce Lewis of the Minnesota Twins hit a grand slam as the Twins did beat the Guardians 10-6 last night. It was the 3rd grand slam of Lewis's career, which consists of just 50 games. Only 2 players have hit 3 grand slams in a shorter period of time at the start of their careers. Russ Derry did it in 47 games for the Yankees during World War II. Name the player who needed just 27 career games to hit his first 3 grand slams. Is it A, Jay Bruce?
What a mouthful.
It is. A, Jay Bruce. B, Pete Alonso. C, Shane Spencer. D, Kent. Is it Herbeck? Herbeck. What do you think it is?
I am going to go with Shane Spencer.
Sure you are, Randy.
All right, Randy. The Phoenix Mercury eliminated from playoff contention over the weekend. By the way, some of these Fever wins, I think, are impacting their number 1 overall pick dream, for some fans. Halting their streak of consecutive playoff appearances at 10. That is the second longest in WNBA history. Randy, name the team that's reached the postseason 11 years in a row. Lindsay Whalen, good player for this team. The Connecticut Sun, the Minnesota Lynx, the Houston Comets, or the Las Vegas Aces?
We will go with Las Vegas.
Michael Grady's maybe caught a game or two of them.
There you go.
Say it again, Randy.
The Lynx?
Oh, the Lynx. Okay there. All right, a little change of heart there late.
All right, final one, Randy. On this day in 1964, Mickey Mantle struck out for the 330th time in his career.
1,000.
What did I say? 1 million? Did I say a million?
Sounded like a big number there.
1330. My apologies. Mickey Mantle, in his career, he tied Babe Ruth's major league record in the ensuing 59 years. 1,330 Ks won't get you into the top 50 on the career strikeout list. Who struck out the most times in a major league career? Is it A, Reggie Jackson, B, Adam Dunn, C, Sammy Sosa, D, Jim Thome?
Wow.
It's a good question.
I guess I will go with Thome.
Again, another just terrific effort out of Randy here.
Yeah, Randy did a good job, man.
Yeah, I've got him down for 3 that he had correct. He got number 1 right. Ronald Acuna Jr., again, at least 30 homers and steal at least 60 bases in a season. Never been done before. Right on Shane Spencer.
Correcto.
I think he got the Michael Grady hint there to slide in the Minnesota Lynx. Andy, the 2 he missed.
Yeah, the 2 he missed. The last one there was Reggie Jackson. Struck out the most times in a major league career, 2,597. And which other one did he miss? Was it number 3 that he missed? The answer,
2, right?
Was it number 2?
Lincecum.
Yeah. You said Lincecum. It was Madison Bumgarner. So there you go.
Wasn't Bumgarner the guy that was hitting all the home runs, too, at one point?
He had old, not old man, but just like man strength.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like on the farm strength.
Just the raw power.
Well, wasn't that how he got injured? Didn't he have like an ATV accident or something out on the farm? I thought he hurt himself when he was out on some of his land, living off the land, in an off season.
Was that Lincecum or was that Bumgarner?
That was Bumgarner. Yeah, Lincecum was the guy with the long hair.
Yeah, he had the hair.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about a handful of cuts that have happened for the Colts here this morning. We'll run down that list and the latest on Jonathan Taylor. We'll do that to round things out here. Wake up call, KB and Andy here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
This afternoon at 3, we'll talk about that Backyard Bourbon broadcast at Mystic Waters on Friday. Greg Rakestraw joins, and it's Cut Down Day. That and more. Don't miss a minute today at 3.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Andy, you know what sums up where we're at right now with the Colts? I just got a Twitter message from Austin.
Okay.
And Austin, in all seriousness, seems to be asking a pretty legit question. Hey, KB, trying to decide who to pick up in my fantasy league at running back. Deion Jackson or Evan Hull? Who do you think has more of an opportunity to be the third back? Thanks.
You want me to answer that? Because I have my answer, but you go ahead.
Well, my first thought is, are you in a 24-team league? You're debating Deion Jackson or Evan Hull?
I was just saying,
and that's where my brain goes to. And then the other thought is just like, Andy, this is where we're at. Roster cuts are happening right now around the league. We're 6 hours and 10 minutes away from getting some answer on Jonathan Taylor, and I am fielding a legitimate question on Deion Jackson or Evan Hull. And it is I guess it's a serious question.
Well, I mean,
that's the running back room for the Colts right now. We'll see how things change over the next 6 or 7 hours. But again, aren't you in a league that's 24 teams? If that question's
there are
relevant?
no other options there.
I mean, we need to talk to Austin. Yeah, the question, while may be legitimate, the real question is, what the hell is Austin doing? I mean, I hate to say it, but that's where we are.
Stay listening, Austin.
Yes, to me, it would be Hull.
Maybe you want
there's
that,
my answer.
Maybe you're a Colts fan, so you want I want one Colts
on the
player
team
on my
every year.
Yeah. So that could be it.
Yeah, I drafted on Sunday, and there's a guy who's a Colts fan, and he's been known to. It's a salary cap league where you bid on players and everything else. He's been known to put a little bit too much of his money into the Colts. So I threw out there early on Jonathan Taylor, hoping he'd spend a little bit too much on Jonathan Taylor, not knowing what's going to happen.
That was a
Hull. Go with Hull.
Yeah, go with the 5th round rookie. Isn't that what our Josh Larkey said last week?
Yeah,
Evan
Hull's one of his sleeper picks.
He called him a sleeper.
Yeah. Okay, a little lay of the land for the day. Again, 4 o'clock, roster cuts are due. If nothing else, we will find out then at 4 o'clock whether Jonathan Taylor is eligible to practice and play, or if he stays on the PUP list, he is out from practice and playing for at least the first 4 weeks of the season. So put the trade to the back burner for a second. If nothing else, Andy, we're going to get an answer on that by 4 o'clock. We'll hear from Chris Ballard later on tomorrow to go over things. So on the Taylor front, that's what we're going to find out today. And nationally, the pulse, Andy, seems to kind of be a little of everywhere, right?
I mean, that's how we opened today's show at the very beginning. Is to me, I am surprised that there's not a little bit more consensus. I feel like last week, wasn't it basically, Rapport and Schefter both were fairly strong on, okay, yeah, he's going to get moved. And then you sit here today, Rapport maybe a little bit more forceful that he still thinks he'll be moved. Schefter over the weekend, kind of an I don't know, but it feels like some of the confidence that was there last week, just a few days ago, KB, is not. And for us.
And what did Diana Rossini say earlier? There wasn't that legit offer?
Significant offer are the words that she used.
There hasn't been one.
Yeah, that tells me that a couple teams have thrown out offers, but right now they're not offers that the Colts are going to take. They're not going to give them away, I guess you could say, for pennies on the dollar. And tomorrow, we can't even, until we get to later today, the scenarios of, okay, he's back with the Colts, he's off the PUP list. Okay, he's back with the Colts, but he's on the PUP list, and now we have 4 additional weeks that we're kind of doing the drama, or he's gone, and then you get into the conversations that we'll have, well, did they get enough for him? Did they not get enough for him? Will fans be angry? Will they be emotional? We've seen some fans reach out and say, hey, listen, hey, we're not winning at a high clip with JT. There is a little bit of a rebuild that doesn't look anything like Arizona, by the way. They're the worst team in the NFL So there's like 5 different angles that this thing could go here in the next few hours, and at least we get a little bit of clarity on what the next step is. And then on top of it, depending on what happens, and this is something I kind of wrote down to ask you tomorrow. I know we're at the end here. How truthful, because I haven't been to one of these press conferences, how open is Chris Ballard going to be tomorrow, whether he's with the team, not with the team, on the pup, off the pup, whatever it may be?
I've said this about Ballard before. I think generally when you rate him on the meter of 32 NFL GMs and their candor in those settings, I think he is one of the more candid. Now, there are times, too, where I feel like he's answered a question. I'm like, man, he should get in the Republican or Democrat debates here upcoming. It's like, gosh, it's such a politician answer. So, I don't know. I would like to hope that he certainly is not an idiot and knows how this Jonathan Taylor situation has played out publicly. I would hope he provides some candor on it. Again, we'll find out late tomorrow.
That's what fans want, right? I mean, fans want, if
100%.
he's here, they want to know what's going on. Their favorite player, they own the jersey.
This is the guy on the side of Lucas Oil Stadium.
What's happening?
You deserve to get some answers on that.
And
he is one of your pillar players.
And if he's not a Colt, that's a huge day in Indy sports. Okay, why is this pillar that you moved up, that you have
Why
loved,
are you taking that picture down?
Yeah, why is he not there? Why is he not here? And then the compensation, why did you feel the compensation was enough?
I've got my latest 53-man roster up on the website. You can check that out. Again, we've had some roster moves trickle out. The Colts had a personnel meeting late last night to get deep into these roster moves. They have done a handful of them this morning. The most notable name would be Mike Strachan. Again, I did not have him making my 53-man roster for several reasons. No special teams impact, late injury in camp, doesn't show up enough in 11-on-11 game settings. Those are some of the reasons why I did not put him on my 53. So that so far checks out. Again, we'll continue to keep you updated all day long. Did want to give Austin a chance for rebuttal. Austin goes, it doesn't help that I have Jonathan Taylor on my team, so trying to fill the void.
Okay, well, that's a handcuff then.
Right,
Good.
right,
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Strachan, by the way, a practice squad possibility. Joel A. Erickson tweeting that out a couple minutes ago. We had him on at 8 o'clock today.
16-man practice squad assembled by tomorrow as well. And again, NFL rules have expanded that over the years, and it also allows you to kind of bring those guys to your 53 and back to the practice squad pretty frequently. Chris Ballard has done a whole lot of that. So whether it's Jonathan Taylor news, whether it's Mo Alley Cox news, whether it's Jelani Woods news, obviously the roster cuts in general, we'll have you covered all day long here on the Fam. Again, it'll be James Boyd, I believe, in with Jake Query today. So good day to have James there in studio. And then JMV will have you at 2 o'clock. For those that missed it, up on the podcast, Joel A. Erickson. We got some Purdue football chatter in with Tom Dienhart. Always enjoy catching up with Tom. Purdue and Fresno State open up the season at noon this Saturday from Ross Aid. We'll get the IU side of things and into their heated, secretive kicker competition coming up later.
I want to do the entire interview on the kicker.
Everybody have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the nice weather. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Lights. Pep